Chapter 21. Lin Yu looked around the battlefield, like a field controller. After a while, he discovered a place in urgent need of support. In one area, a Quincy controlled a zombie army composed of Shinigami and Quincy. As they fell, there are more and more corpses under the corpse, and the number of that person's zombie army has been increasing. It's decided, let's kill this Quincy first. He is too much of a threat to the ordinary soldiers. Killing him can save a large number of Shinigami. After experiencing this war, these Shinigami are all outstanding after the war. The backbone. Lin Yu rushed towards the zombie army. Damn it, the enemy who plays with the corpses of his companions cannot be forgiven. How can it be repaired? It would be nice if we could kill the Quincy controlling the corpses, but there are too many corpses and we can't rush in. Where are the captains? Who can come and save us? The timid Shinigami could no longer hold the knife in his hand. Don't count on the captains. They are facing more powerful enemies. As the Shinigami who protect Soul Society, show your courage and don't be looked down upon by these Quincy. The team members were forced back by the zombie army. In addition to being no match for the zombie army, the team members couldn't bear to take action. After all, the zombie army included their relatives and friends. Although they were dead, the team members unwilling to destroy their corpses, a few team members were determined to defend Soul Society and rushed into the corpse tied with their Zanpakuto, but it was only a drop in the bucket. In the end, they were submerged in the corpse group. After being transformed, they joined the attack on Shinigami. Of catching up, when Lin Yu saw this scene, his heart was filled with anger. He knew that these soldiers faced not only the strength of the enemy, but also inner struggle and pain. They are unwilling to harm their former comrades, even if they have become zombies. However, this hesitation will only put them into more dangerous situations. This can't go on like this. Lin Yu secretly made up his mind. He must deal with the Quincy as soon as possible to prevent more team members from being transformed into zombies. He speeded up and rushed towards the core area of the zombie army, looking for the Quincy who controlled everything. In the tide of zombies, Lin Yu waved his Zanpakuto and cut off the heads of zombies. His eyes were cold and firm, without any mercy. Regarding these lifeless corpses, he understood that only by completely eliminating them could the living people be protected. As Lin Yu killed, more and more zombies fell at his feet. His body was covered in blood, but he didn't care and continued to move towards his goal. Finally, he found the Quincy hidden in the zombie army. Is that you? Lin Yu looked at the other person coldly, with anger flashing in his eyes. I will never let you go if you play with the corpses of your companions. Zaire was still laughing while transforming the corpses on the battlefield. This feeling is so wonderful. Fight and join my zombie army. Suddenly, Zaire, feeling the danger, controlled the zombie army to stand in front of him. He saw a Shinigami wearing the captain's Hayori approaching him quickly. Oh, captain-level Shinigami? My zombie army doesn't have captain-level zombies yet. I want to turn you into my first zombie captain. Zaire hadn't realized that Lin Yu was killing him like this. The Quincy was like chopping a watermelon, thinking of transforming Lin Yu as well. However, Lin Yu just responded coldly. I don't know. His eyes flashed with determination and determination. Seeing Zaire, who did not retreat, but came towards him, Lin Yu waved the Zanpakuto without hesitation. What greeted Zaire was a sharp slash, which brought endless anger and determination in Lin Yu's heart. Zaire was originally full of confidence, but when he was hit by Lin Yu's angry slash, everything changed. Powerful spiritual pressure erupted from the Zanpakuto, as violently as a volcano erupting. In an instant, Zaire's whole body exploded, leaving not even a complete body behind. What static blood device? What defense is awesome? Under Lin Yu's full blow, none of these had the slightest effect and could not stop his attack. With the death of Zaire, the zombie army also lost all mobility, and they fell in pieces on the battlefield. The originally noisy battlefield became silent. At this time, the Shinigami who were closest finally saw Lin Yu standing with a knife clearly, and they all cheered. It's Captain Lin Yu. Their voices were full of surprise and admiration. There are too many enemies. It would be great if I knew Shadow Clone. I can't kill all these fish with one blow. Lin Yu just thought about it. This is the Shinigami world, Shadow Clone. I'm afraid he's not thinking about it. Or he is thinking about it. Think of other reliable methods. Looking at the area where the captain and Yawatch fought, the collision between the spirit sun and the spiritual pressure was extremely fierce. Ryujin Jaka's range of influence is really terrifying. You can feel the heat even from such a distance. After dealing with Zaire, Lin Yu thought for a moment. With the captain suppressing Yawatch, I will handle the remaining Knights of the Star Cross. However, there are so many knights left. It would be too troublesome to kill them one by one. Yes, this is forcing me to use Wushuang. It's done. It doesn't matter even if the spiritual pressure is too much. Lin Yu stroked the Zanpakuto gently, the latitude and longitude of the sky, the sun, the moon and the stars, the wind and rain, the thunder capital, the ghosts and gods. Liberate, Ziwei sword. With the liberation of Lin Yu's Zanpakuto, the stars appeared in the sky of Soul Society, and thunder snakes danced around them. It's not enough. Lin Yu frantically released his spiritual pressure, and the power of stars and thunder enveloped the entire battlefield. What? The sudden turn of events shocked Yawatch, who was fighting against Captain Yamamoto. The sky has changed. Is it the Shinigami Bankai named Lin Yu? Yamamoto Shigekuni, I'm afraid this guy is no worse than you. Yuhabak, if you dare to be distracted while fighting me, you should die. The captain seized the moment when he was distracted and struck forward. Praise to the holy ruins, a huge wall of light rose up around Yawatch, temporarily forcing Captain Yamamoto back. After expanding his domain to the entire battlefield, Lin Yu slowly stepped onto the sky, holding the Ziwei sword high in his hand. The power of the stars protects all living beings. The power of starlight in the sky was led down by Lin Yu, blessing all Shinigami on the battlefield. The captain who fought with Yawatch felt the blessing of the power of the stars, and his offensive became even faster. Yunzhai also felt the power of the stars blessing him. Not only was the consumed spiritual pressure recovering rapidly, but his strength also climbed to a higher level. Lin Yu, have you reached this level now? Yunzhai put away his inner joy and continued to join the battle. The captain and team members, blessed by the power of starlight, became energetic and began to clean up the Quincy. Lin Yu looked down at the battlefield, searching for other powerful enemies. He noticed several powerful spiritual energy fluctuations and locked their position. Lin Yu's body flashed, falling like a meteor, and directly found one of the members of the Star-Crossed Knights. The Ziwei sword easily tore through the enemy's defense and killed them. Then, Lin Yu shuttled across the battlefield like a ghost, taking away the life of a member of the Star-Crossed Knights with every sword strike. His power makes the members of the Knights frightened, and also inspires the Shinigami to fight even more bravely. After Lin Yu killed many members of the Knights. Hasward, the situation is dangerous. I saw our entire army annihilated. Even His Majesty failed. Now we must find a way to kill this Shinigami, otherwise we will lose this battle. We will all die here. Valentine activated the ability of his Holy Word V, which has the ability to foresee the future. But we are not his enemies. Hasward showed a desperate expression. Chapter 22. After a brief silence, Hasward spoke. Valentine, please contact Isolde, Ethera, Justice, and Janice. They are all your Majesty's loyal ministers and have great strength. In the unique holy text, Janice's holy text ability can temporarily gain His Majesty's power, which can greatly enhance our combat effectiveness. The five of us can pose a certain threat to Yamamoto Shigegwo and give His Majesty the opportunity to rise. Take action to kill Lin Yu. Although we may not be able to compete head-on with Yamamoto Shigekuni, with the strength of the five of us, we believe we can hold him back for a while and create more opportunities for His Majesty. Hasward is worthy of being the second in command of the Empire of Light. Even in such an extremely unfavorable battlefield situation, he can still make the most correct decisions quickly. At this moment, the battle between Captain Yamamoto and Yawatch has entered a fierce stage. Both sides are going back and forth, refusing to give in to each other. Yohabak suddenly felt that the spiritual power of many of his Star-Crossed Knights members were rapidly disappearing, and at the same time he felt Lin Yu's powerful spiritual pressure being released on the battlefield without any scruples. He realized that if this continued, all members of the Star-Crossed Knights would be annihilated, and he would also be trapped in a predicament besieged by the Gotei 13. However, at this time, he was tightly entangled by Yamamoto Shigekuni and could not escape at all, let alone find a way to break the situation. At this critical moment, Hasward led Valentine and other 4 members of the Star-Crossed Knights to suddenly burst into the battlefield. They shouted in unison, "Your Majesty, let us resist Yamamoto Shigekuni. Please go and deal with Lin Yu immediately." The timely appearance of Hasward and others instantly broke the deadlock. Yuhabak nodded without hesitation, then pulled away and galloped in the direction of Lin Yu at an extremely fast speed. Yamamoto Jinryusai Shigekuni watched Yawatch leave, with a flash of anger in his eyes. Just as he was about to pursue Yawatch, the 5 Hazwards quickly blocked him. Their eyes were firm, and they faced the powerful captain without fear. "You 5 brats are just trying to stop me?" Yamamoto Jinryusa Shigekuni's voice was full of majesty and domineering. "If that's the case, then prepare to bear my wrath." At the same time, Lin Yu, who was releasing spiritual pressure at a high intensity, also felt a little tired. Maintaining such a huge territory and continuing to support the Shinigami on the battlefield is a huge burden for him. In addition, he had just killed several members of the Knights in succession and consumed a lot of spiritual energy. Now he is no longer in his prime. At this moment, multiple arrows like giant spears suddenly appeared in the sky, shooting towards Lin Yu at an alarming speed. These arrows are so powerful that they can't help but chill people's hearts. Well, the Great Holy Bow? Lin Yu frowned slightly, and he immediately realized that this was Yhwach's attack method. The Yhwach people have not yet arrived, but the attack has already arrived. Lin Yu reacted quickly and dodged to avoid the attack of the Great Holy Bow. However, he did not stop because of this, and waved the Ziwei sword in his hand. Clang, there was a crisp sound of metal collision. The swords struck each other, and sparks flew everywhere. Sure enough, the attack from the Great Holy Bow was just a feint. Yhwach's Annihilation Cross Knife collided with the Ziwei sword, making a harsh sound. The two of them felt each other's strength in an instant, so they decisively distanced themselves and re-examined each other. A smile appeared on Yhwach's face, as if he was full of expectations for this battle. Lin Yu, on the other hand, held the Ziwei sword tightly. "Lin Yu, it seems that I underestimated you and killed so many of my subordinates. You will rest here today." Yhwach launched another attack, and Lin Yu also slashed with his sword. After a fierce fight, Lin Yu finally found Yhwach's flaw. He swung his knife without hesitation and slashed Yhwach's body severely. However, this time it did not go as smoothly as before. This knife was not able to break Yhwach's static blood suit, but instead exposed himself to the enemy's attack. Yhwach quickly counterattacked and slashed at Lin Yu, causing blood to spurt out instantly. "Damn it! Is it because I consumed too much spiritual pressure just now? I can't even block this knife." Lin Yu cursed in his heart and immediately used the flash skill and retreated backwards. "I didn't expect that I would be injured after fighting for so long." Looking at his wounds, Lin Yu couldn't help but frown. "As expected of you, Yhwach, even if I'm not in full strength, it's still hard for me to compete with you head-on. However, don't underestimate me." Lin Yu tightly held the crepe myrtle sword in his hand. "Yhwach, when Captain Yamamoto takes care of Hazward and the others, the only thing waiting for you in the end is death. I just need to hold you back. This is not a difficult task for me." Yunzhai, who was fighting with other knights, saw Lin Yu injured and anxiously left the battle group and rushed towards him. After a few more rounds, Yhwach, who had been unable to attack for a long time, became a little anxious. As Lin Yu said, if he could not defeat Lin Yu, he would definitely lose when Yamamoto Shigekuni came over. At this time, he saw Yunzhai, who rushed over to support Lin Yu, and he immediately had an idea. If he remembered correctly, the female captain had been very concerned about Lin Yu from the very beginning when they invaded Siriidi. Yhwach immediately changed his strategy and launched an attack on Yunzhai, who was coming over. What Yhwach expected did not happen, and Lin Yu did not come back for reinforcements because of his attack on Yunzhai. Yhwach, you underestimate the captains of the Gotei 13. Although they are not as powerful as me, they are not something you can defeat easily." Yunzhai, who arrived, blocked Yuha's blow and joined Lin Yu. "Lin Yu, are you okay?" Yunzhai was concerned about Lin Yu's injury. "It's a small problem. It's just a knife from him. Now that you have come to support us, we are more confident in suppressing him." Yhwach was not angry at his miscalculation. "In this case, I will try my best to kill you two first and then retreat. Even if this war fails, it is a good choice to kill a rising top combat force in Soul Society." Yhwach's combat power is fully activated. The two of them felt more pressure. The three fought fiercely for a while, and Yhwach suddenly launched an attack on Yunzhai with all his strength. Lin Yu secretly thought it was bad and stood in front of Yunzhai. "Lin Yu, you miscalculated. In fact, my target from the beginning was you." After that, a stream of concentrated spirit flames appeared under Lin Yu's feet. This move hit him directly, and then a large sacred arrow shot into the flames, penetrating his body, and the arrow carried Lin Yu flying. "Got out. F***K. I was tricked, damn you." Before he could say this, Lin Yu lost consciousness and passed out. Lin Yu. Seeing Lin Yu being seriously injured and not knowing whether he was alive or dead, Yunzhai went berserk and slashed at Yamamoto crazily with his naginata, vowing to kill him on the spot. Captain Yamamoto felt the disappearance of Lin Yu's spiritual pressure and suddenly ran away. Bankai, residual fire sword. Resident fire Taisho, resident re-prison clothes, instantly turns his own spiritual pressure into 15 million degree flames, covering his body and blade like a blazing sun. At this moment, the captain seemed to be wearing a flame windbreaker. At the same time as Bankai, Soul Society is emitting scorching heat. This temperature is enough to evaporate all the water in Soul Society bit by bit. If it continues, Soul Society will even turn into a scorched earth. Remnant Fire Taisho North. The world is completely ashes. Across most of the battlefield, Captain Yamamoto slashed in the direction of Yawatch. The 5 Hazwards were unable to dodge. Valentine, Sarah, Justice, and Janice were swallowed up by the sword on the spot. Turned into ashes. Yamamoto, you deserve to die. The captain who rushed over swung his knife again. Remnant Fire Taito, East Rising Sun Blade. The heat of Ryujin Jaka's flames was all concentrated on the tip of the blade, and it did not burn or emit explosive flames. It just wiped away everything it touched without a trace. The ground where Yawatch stood was instantly turned into nothingness. Just as he stepped back, a figure among the corpses piled up behind him suddenly launched a sneak attack on him, piercing his body with a Zanpakuto, and then stepped away. If Lin Yu saw this scene, he would definitely say something. K. It turns out that you, Chojiro, are still ambushing Yawatch, just waiting to give him a fatal blow. The commander-in-chief slashed his sword in anger, turning Yawatch into ashes before he could react. Soul Society wins this battle. Chapter 23. There was a continuous drizzle in the sky, and the Siriidii had changed beyond recognition. The once solemn and sacred building was now in ruins and a mess. There were many corpses lying strewn on the ground, including Shinigami in Death Overlord uniforms and Quincy in white uniforms. These corpses were either pierced by swords or scorched by flames. They were horrific to look at. These were all lucky, as they left whole corpses behind, and some even had their ashes blown away. The captain's bankai is not easy to bear. Shanjiro, clean the battlefield and count the casualties. The captain ordered Sasuke solemnly, and then checked on Lin Yu's condition. Is Lin Yu okay, Captain Yunzhai? Yunzhai hugged Lin Yu, who was charred and unconscious, as if he were holding a piece of burnt charcoal, and desperately used Kaido to treat the wound penetrated by the sacred destroying arrow. Captain, I don't know either. Lin Yu's trauma is not too serious, but he is unconscious. Yunzhai looked very haggard. After a while, Captain, the casualty statistics are out. Thanks to Captain Lin Yu's bankai, only 1/3 of the ordinary soldiers died in the battle. The casualties among the officers were even smaller. 5 of the deputy captains were killed. As for the captain, Chojiro didn't say any more. The captain took a deep breath and said, Shinjiro, continue your report. I am not that fragile. Since there is a war, there will be sacrifices and the price will be paid. Now that the war has been won, no matter how high the price is, it will be worth it. Chojiro continued, Chifari Shishima, captain of the 4th Division, Uetetsu Nagamian. The captain of the 9th Division, Yuki Wang Tukua. The captain of the 10th Division, Yubi Zensadaji. The captain of the 13th Division. The captain of the team, Nico Saizo, died in the battle, and the captain of the 6th team, Saito Fusen, was seriously injured. Is Saito also seriously injured? Yunzhai was hit twice in a row and hugged Lin Yu in silence. Chojiro looked at Lin Yu, who was charred all over. I'm still angry and haven't given up yet. I wonder if it will be sent after a while? Captain Lin Yu is seriously injured. After all, he is still in a coma. Captain Yamamoto sighed helplessly after listening to Chojiro's report. 5 captains of the Gotei 13 were killed in the battle, 2 captains were seriously injured, and more than half were killed. The price was really heavy. What was the result? On the Quincy side, Yawatch Bach was killed by Yu, and all the members of their so-called Knights of the Star Cross were killed except Hazward, who disappeared. Oh, Hazward escaped? I'll send someone to chase him right away. No need. Yawatch is dead. A little Hazward can't make a difference. Let's make arrangements later. Yes, Captain. Captain Yamamoto glanced at Lin Yu, who was lying on the ground with unknown life and death, and sighed deeply. Hey, Chojiro, go and ask Captain Unohana to come over and treat Lin Yu's injuries and see what's going on. I don't want to hear any more news about the captain's death. Hearing the word killed in battle, Ba Yunzhai's heart twitched suddenly, and he prayed silently in his heart, Lin Yu, you must hold on. It didn't take long for Mao Zihua to rush to where they were. She asked seriously, Captain, Ba Yunzhai, how is Lin Yu doing now? However, Ba Yunzhai's eyes were empty and he hugged Lin Yu tightly without saying a word. The captain arrived here later and did not know the specific details of Lin Yu's injury. Ba Yunzhai, let go of Lin Yu first and let me check his injuries, Mao Zihua said firmly. But at this time, Ba Yunzhai seemed to have lost his soul, still hugging Lin Yu tightly without any reaction. Seeing this, Mao Zihua frowned slightly and said sternly, do you want to watch him die here? These words were like thunder, exploding in Ba Yunzhai's ears. Her eyes widened, her body trembled, and she slowly let go of her hand, handing Lin Yu over to Mao Zihua. Now tell me the process of his injury so that I can formulate a treatment plan. Seeing that Ba Yunzhai finally responded, Mao Zihua did not dare to delay any longer. After all, a little more time would give him 10% more hope of treatment. Lin Yu was burned by the concentrated flame of Yawacha's spirit sun to save me, and then penetrated by the sacred destroying arrow. Ba Yunzhai opened his mouth and told the process of Lin Yu's injury. The injuries caused by the holy Mieya are not fatal. You have almost healed them with Kaido, Bonsai. It's strange that he was just burned by the spirit child flames. How could he be unconscious? Captain, please allow me to take Captain Lin Yu back to Team 11. I want to conduct a comprehensive examination on him. Go and find out the reason. Ba Yunzhai, you take Lin Yu. I will take Saito and rush back to the 11th Squadron for emergency treatment. You will be my deputy. Mao Zihua and Ba Yunzhai took Lin Yu and Zhai Tong rushed back to Squad 11. On the way, Mao Zihua had a heavy expression. She knew that this injury was unusual. If no effective treatment could be found, Lin Yu would be in danger. Arriving at the 11th Division, Zihua immediately started treatment. She used her rich medical knowledge and superb Kaido to carefully examine Lin Yu's body. However, no matter how hard she tried, Lin Yu showed no sign of waking up. Ba Yunzhai was waiting anxiously. She secretly prayed that Lin Yu would be safe. Time passed minute by minute, and sweat gradually broke out on Zihua's forehead. Just when Ba Yunzhai felt desperate, Mao Zihua suddenly discovered something abnormal. She stared at Lin Yu's body, as if she saw a glimmer of hope. That's wrong. Mao Zihua's eyes became sharp, staring at Lin Yu closely, as if she wanted to see something deeper through his body. Lin Yu's injury is not just as simple as being burned by the spirit child flame. His body is filled with the power of the Quincy. This must have been penetrated into his body by Yawach with the help of the spirit child flame. This Quincy's power, the power is very powerful, suppressing Lin Yu's spiritual pressure, which is the reason why he is unconscious. But judging from the current situation, Lin Yu's life is not in danger, as long as he can assimilate or eliminate the power of Yohabak. You will wake up. Mao Zihua's voice was full of determination and confidence. After hearing Mao Zihua's words, Ba Yunzhai finally showed an expression of surprise on his face. Great. In other words, Lin Yu is still alive, and he still has a chance to wake up. However, Zihua's face remained solemn. However, this process may take a long time, and it depends entirely on Lin Yu's own ability. If he cannot assimilate or eliminate the power of Yawach, then he will sleep forever. Can I send spiritual pressure to Lin Yu to help him? Ba Yunzhai asked eagerly. Zihua shook his head. He can only rely on himself. We can't give him any help. How long will this process take? It's hard to say. This process can take as short as a few days or as long as hundreds of years. It depends on Lin Yu when he wakes up. Mao Zihua sighed helplessly. Ba Yunzhai was silent for a moment and then said, in that case, let him have a good rest here. After that, she turned and left. Mao Zihua looked at Lin Yu and prayed silently in her heart. Lin Yu, you must regain consciousness as soon as possible. Ba Yunzhai seems to be fine. If you don't wake up, I don't know what she will do. While the outside world was discussing Lin Yu's injury, he came to his own Zanpakuto world. Well, you are really miserable this time. You are so seriously injured. Ziwei looked at Lin Yu with a smile on her face. That grandson of Yawach can't afford to play tricks. He can only carry out sneak attacks. How can he be the king of the Quincy? What a shame. I know that he will not die easily, but fell into a deep sleep. When I recover, I will kill him, beat him up, and make him kneel and sing conquer. Lin Yu looked furious. You beat the shit out of him. You should think about yourself first. Yawach's power is filling your body, and you can't even wake up now. You are still dreaming if you beat the shit out of him. What should we do? You must have something, right? After all, you are the incarnation of Emperor Ziwei. Lin Yu wanted Ziwei to take action. There is still a way, and it's very simple. You just absorb or eliminate his power. Lin Yu smiled flatteringly. I can't figure it out, right? Stop laughing. Your expression is so mean. You need to be majestic. Do you understand? I don't know how you can attract the power of Emperor Ziwei like this. Lin Yu's face suddenly fell. If you don't want to help, then I won't help. Why are you attacking me personally? Just stay here and practice. As long as you learn Bankai one day, it's just a matter of Yubaka's power. Ba Yunzhai is still waiting for you. When Ziwei mentioned Ba Yunzhai, Lin Yu immediately became motivated. Okay. I'm going to practice right now. If it's okay, don't bother me again. Go away. It's like you don't care about anyone. Ba Yunzhai doesn't care about me. Roll. You can read more daily new novels on fictionzone.net. Both sites share the same login details, so you don't need to sign up again. Chapter 24. The reconstruction of Siri is proceeding in an orderly manner, and everything is developing in a good direction. The 8th Division Captain's Room. Ba Yunzhai, are you okay? Saito, who had almost recovered, approached Ba Yunzhai, who was bored in the captain's room. In the past few years, except for captain meetings, Ba Yunzhai had hardly left this hut. It turned out that the lively captain of the 8th Division was gone, leaving only a lonely girl. Saito looked at Ba Yunzhai. Her eyes became dull, as if she had lost her passion and motivation for life. She couldn't help but feel distressed. Damn Lin Yu. Wait until you wake up and see if I don't beat you up. It was Mao Jihua who asked you to come. I'm fine, Ba Yunzhai said lightly, with a hint of exhaustion and helplessness in her voice. Saito sighed. She walked to Ba Yunzhai and patted her shoulder gently. Ba Yunzhai, we can't continue like this. Siri has begun to rebuild, and we should also cheer up. Ba Yunzhai raised his head and looked at Saito. A trace of confusion flashed in his eyes. But I don't know how to face it. I have lost too much, and I don't know if I can go back to the way I was before. Saito clenched her fists. She knew that Ba Yunzhai needed time to recover slowly, but she didn't want to see her immersed in sadness. She decided to help her get out of the predicament and regain the energetic and confident captain of the 8th Division. Ba Yunzhai, cheer up. Lin Yu will wake up one day, and we will still be by your side. Lin Yu will feel distressed if he knows you are like this. Saito consoled him earnestly. A trace of emotion flashed in Ba Yunzhai's eyes, and she knew that Saito was telling the truth. Although she still can't completely let go of the pain of the past, she is willing to try to trust Saito and accept her help. Thank you, Saito. Maybe I really need some time to adjust myself, but I will try to stand up again and work hard for the future of Siri with everyone, Ba Yunzhai said. Okay, let's not talk about this anymore. In the recent captain meetings, the captain proposed to reorganize the Gotei 13 and change his UNG private school into Shino's Spiritual Arts Academy and recruit ordinary people from Rukongai. Soul Enrichment Gotei 13. I want to know what you think. There is nothing we can do about it. In the battle with the Quincy, the Gotei 13 suffered heavy losses and are in urgent need of fresh blood. Otherwise, the name of the Gotei will be empty and there will be no reality of the Gotei. Now 4 and 7A total of 6 division captains, 9, 10, 12, and 13, are vacant, and the lack of combat power is very serious. Ba Yunzhai still lamented that he lost too many teammates in this battle. The 7th Division is okay. You and Vice Captain Chunichiro are helping to take care of it. The remaining 5 divisions are almost at a standstill. I agree with this restructuring. Saito also expressed his inner feelings. Idea. The captain also re-clarified the responsibilities of each division. The 1st Division is the main division, commanding the Gotei 13th Division. This has not changed. The 2nd Division has not changed, and the 3rd Division has been changed to a support unit. The 4th Division is clearly a medical unit, and Mao Zihua asked to be transferred from the 11th Division to the 4th Division captain, saying that he no longer wanted to fight. At this point, both of them were silent for a while. After taking a sip of tea, Ba Yunzhai said again, the 5th Division is clearly the rescue team, your 6th Division has not changed, the 7th Division is clearly the inner court escort team, my 8th Division is the intelligence team, and the 9th Division is clearly the intelligence team. The 10th Division is clearly defined as a prison team. The 10th Division is clearly defined as a patrol force. The 11th Division is clearly defined as a combat force. The 12th Division is unchanged for the time being, and the 13th Division is clarified as a purification squad. In addition, the commander-in-chief is also designated. It is proposed to establish an expeditionary force to be stationed specifically in Hueco Mundo. Sounds good. Saito nodded. Such a restructuring can better utilize the strengths of each division and improve the overall strength of the Gotei 13. However, the establishment of an expeditionary force may cause some controversy. Indeed, Hueco Mundo is a dangerous place after all, and once the expeditionary force is dispatched, it means a head-on confrontation with the creatures of Hueco Mundo, and the casualties will definitely be high. Yunzhai said worriedly. But this is also a necessary move. If we don't take the initiative, the threat of Hueco Mundo will always exist. Saito said firmly. We cannot sit still and wait for death. That's right. We must be prepared to deal with Hueco Mundo at any time. Yunzhai took a deep breath. The selection and training of personnel for each team must also be carried out as soon as possible. Well, I will discuss the specific plan with the other captains, Saito said, looking at Yunzhai. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. Lin Yu will definitely wake up. Yunzhai smiled slightly. Thank you, Saito. I will take care of myself. Let's go see Lin Yu. Saito invited Yunzhai, who hadn't been out for a long time. The two walked side by side towards Squadron 11. Not long after, they arrived at Lin Yu's ward. Captain Yunzhai, Captain Saito, are you here to visit Captain Lin Yu? Someone was already taking care of Lin Yu in the ward. When he saw the two coming, he asked. It's Vice Captain Xiaochun. You're here to take care of your captain again. Saito responded. Captain Saito, you're welcome. This is what I, the adjutant, should do. Since you, Captain Yunzhai, are here, I will go back first. After saying that, Xiaochun Ichiro bowed slightly, and then quietly exited Lin Yu's ward. Yunzhai and Saito were the only two people left in the room. Yunzhai walked slowly to the bed, stretched out his hand and gently touched Lin Yu's pale cheek, his eyes full of concern and nostalgia. She whispered softly, Why aren't you awake yet? Do you know that I miss you? I also want to eat hot pot with you. Sit on the roof together and watch the stars in the evening breeze. Wake up soon, come on. Don't sleep anymore. As he spoke, Yunzhai burst into tears. Lin Yu's fingers moved, as if he was about to wake up. I'm kidding you. It's weird that I can wake up like this. You've watched too many bloody dramas, haven't you? It's too cliché. In fact, it was Yunzhai's hand holding Lin Yu and shaking it. Okay, Yunzhai. Don't disturb Lin Yu. Let him rest quietly. Let's go find Uzihua. Seeing Yunzhai losing control of her emotions, Saito hurriedly stepped forward and pulled her out of the ward. Yunzhai, you've cried again. Mao Zhihua looked at the two people who came together, and there were tears in the corners of Yunzhai's eyes. I'm fine. It's just that Lin Yu hasn't woken up yet, and is too excited. Yunzhai, who was forcing a smile, had an ugly smile on his face. You. Don't worry too much. Lin Yu's vital signs have been stable for so many years, but he just hasn't woken up. You have to believe that he will wake up one day. Mao Zhihua comforted Yun. Fast. What do you want to see me for? It's nothing. I just heard that you were tired of fighting and just want to study Kaido, so I came to ask. Also, we want to know if you have submitted an application to the captain to be transferred to the captain of the 4th Division. Saifuji opened his mouth and explained the reason for his visit. So that's what happened. After this war with the Quincy, I really hate fighting. Seeing so many teammates killed in battle, I don't know when I started to have compassion. I just want to study Kaido with peace of mind. Heal more people, Mao Zhihua said as she fell into memories. Seeing that the topic was becoming more and more serious, Saito joked. The famous evil man in Soul Society actually stopped killing people and switched to saving people. If this matter spreads, others will think it is a joke. Right. Haha. Unohana had a dark look on her face. If the two of them weren't best friends, she would really want to kill Saito with a knife. Uzihua is studying medicine, but that doesn't mean she can't afford surgery. The three of Yunzhai talked about everything all night, as if they had returned to the happy days hundreds of years ago. Chapter 25. Time passed and Siriidii returned to its original appearance, but Lin Yu still hadn't woken up. Yunzhai, it's time for the Xinjiang Spiritual Arts Academy to graduate again. Let's go shopping. I heard that there are 2 geniuses in this class. Genius? You were talking about Kyoraku Shunsui and Jushiro Yukitake. You know them too? How come I don't know? Saito tilted his head and asked the doubts in his heart. Yunzhai showed a surprised expression. You actually don't know them? The two of them were students of UNZ school before the establishment of Xinjiang Spiritual Arts Academy and were disciples of Captain Yamamoto. These two people have shown extraordinary performance before. High talent. You said you don't know it. What? The two of them are disciples of the captain. Yunzhai, you have to know that I rarely go to the first team, let alone the UNZ private school before. Saito felt that he did not know Kyoraku Shunsui and Jushiro Yukitake is a normal thing. Yunzhai put his hands on his face. I really don't know what to say to you. Forget it. Let's go to the Xinjiang Spiritual Arts Academy. The two of them chatted and walked towards the Xinjiang Spiritual Arts Academy. As soon as I arrived at the door, I heard a noise coming from inside. Look, that's Jushiro Yukitake, someone said, pointing into the distance. Yunzhai and Saito followed the sound and saw two young people standing on the playground, surrounded by classmates. You are so young and promising, Yunzhai praised. It is said that the two of them have learned Shirkai and have the strength of the vice-captain level. They are really amazing. Saito couldn't help but sigh. Bonsai, that Jushiro Yukitake is still a handsome guy, with his long flowing white hair. At this moment, Kyoraku Shunsui and Jushiro Yukitake noticed Hakawonsai and Saito at the door, and they walked over with smiles. Hello, Captain Saito, Captain Bonsai, Kyoraku Shunsui said. Hello, you two brats. Long time no see. Yunzhai responded with a smile. Do we know each other? Jushiro Yukitake also greeted. You two are still so polite. We met once before at UNZ school. Maybe you have forgotten it. Saito smiled and said, By the way, what are your plans next after graduation? Which program are you going to go to? Team? We haven't chosen which division to go to yet, but no matter which division we go to, we will make our own contribution to Soul Society. Kyoraku Shunsui said firmly. Very good. You are worthy of being the disciple of the captain. Saito nodded. I believe you will become excellent Shinigami. Thank you, Captain Saito, for your encouragement. Kyoraku Shunsui and Jushiro Yukitake said in unison. While Yunzhai and his group were chatting, a large number of students gathered around them. After all, they were the two captains, and it was difficult to see them usually. Captain Yunzhai, Captain Saito, tell us a few words. Seeing more and more people surrounding them, several people were preparing to escape. Suddenly someone in the crowd took the lead and shouted. Yes, Captain, tell us what you know about the Gotei 13. Another voice echoed. Upon hearing this request, Yunzhai and Saito looked at each other and smiled bitterly. They knew that if they did not give these enthusiastic students some response, they might not be able to escape. So, the two of them stopped helplessly, faced many expectant eyes, cleared their throats and said, Dear students, I am very happy to communicate with you here. As the captain, I know that I have a heavy responsibility, but I also hope that we can maintain an optimistic and positive attitude and face challenges together. I believe that as long as we unite as one, there will be no difficulties that cannot be overcome. Finally, I wish everyone to achieve better results in the days to come. Then, Saito also added, Yes, Captain Yunzhai said it very well. At the same time, I would like to remind everyone that you must constantly improve your own strength and be brave enough to try new things, so that you can gain more from it. Remember live, brave hearts are never defeated. The official speech made these students stunned. These words won warm applause and cheers from the students. However, at this moment, a sharp voice came from a corner of the crowd. Captain, can you tell me more about the war with the Quincy hundreds of years ago? This question caught Yunzhai and Saito off guard. They looked at each other and then answered with a smile. Of course, but time is limited today. I will tell you in detail when I have the opportunity. Now, we have other things to do. Handle it. Take your leave now. After saying that, they quickly turned around and fled the scene before the students could react. Finally, after a burst of running, Yunzhai and Saito successfully got rid of the crowd. They breathed a sigh of relief, looked at each other and smiled, secretly glad that they finally escaped this unexpected lecture. Yeah. These people are so enthusiastic. Kyoraku Shunsui looked a little lazy now. That's because there are captains Yunzhai and Saito. It's difficult for students to meet the captain. Do you think they are Master Shan's disciples like us? Really? Jushiro curled his lips. Okay. You two should stop bickering. I came to Xinjiang Spiritual Arts Academy today because I have something to talk to you two about. Yunzhai stopped the two of them. Captain Yunzhai, is there anything that the two of us need to handle? Jushiro was very curious about this. There is anything that the captain can't handle, and it needs the two of them, students who have not yet graduated, to complete it. Kyoraku Shunsui, I'm here to invite you to join the 8th Division. Saito and the other three were a little surprised. Byansai, have you taken a fancy to Chunshui's talent? You didn't tell me about this when you came here. Saito looked in disbelief. Well, I did it on the spur of the moment. I didn't mean to hide it from you. Yunzhai hurriedly explained to Saito. Reason? Captain Yunzhai, can you give me a reason to join the 8th Division? Kyoryu thought about it for a while. Chunshui, are you a noble? Yeah. I was born into a superior noble. Does this have anything to do with me going to the 8th Division? Shushui, you should know that the 8th Division is an intelligence team. Collecting intelligence requires various talents and channels. It is difficult for me to get help from the superior nobles. It just so happens that you are also very capable and have learned Shurkai. If you can come to our 8th Division, Squadron, I can directly appoint you as the vice captain. Yunzhai explained to Kyoraku Shunsui why he invited him to the 8th Squadron. It's an exciting offer, but I still have to think about it. Then I'll wait for Chunshui's reply. Yunzhai received a reply that Chunshui didn't count. Saito, aren't you going to invite Jushiro to your 6th Division? I think so too, but it's impossible. Saito looked sad. Jushiro smiled and spoke. Captain Saito didn't even invite me. How do you know I won't go to Division 6? Although you two are considered very powerful students, you have not come into contact with the core of the Gotei 13. It is normal that you do not know some information. Your arrangements for Jushiro have already been decided. Saito, the words attracted the attention of Kyoraku Shunsui and Jushiro Yukitake. Is it arranged? Can Captain Saito tell me? Jushiro wanted to know eagerly. It's okay to tell you. You will know it soon anyway. This is not information that needs to be kept secret. Jushiro, you will go to the 13th Division. Now, the 7th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, and 13th Divisions, the captains of the 7th Division, are all vacant. The 7th Division has Deputy Captain Ko Chunichiro on behalf of the team. The affairs of the 9th Division and the 10th Division are not important. The 11th Division is a combat unit. It is impossible to assign you to it. After all, you are. The remaining ones are the 12th and 13th Divisions. After discussion, you should be assigned to the 13th Division as the acting deputy captain. That's it. Thank you, Captain Saito, for telling me about this. I will keep this favor in mind. If you need my help in the future, please feel free to ask. A serious look appeared on Jushiro's face, and he solemnly addressed Saito. Promise. It's just a small matter. Jushiro doesn't need to take it so seriously. Saito quickly waved his hand, indicating that he didn't need to care. It may be a trivial matter to the captain, but it helped me a lot and helped me understand the future and prevent me from being too passive when taking over as deputy captain. Thank you again, Captain Saito. Jushiro thanked him sincerely. Okay, now that the matter has been resolved, let's return to the Gotei 13th Division. And Shunsui, I'll be waiting for you at the 8th Division. Bonsai and Saito were about to leave. Captain Yunzhai seems to have expected that I will go to the 8th Division. Really, haha. Kyoryu Shunsui showed a helpless smile. In the blink of an eye, Jushiro Yukitake and Kyoraku Shunsui have graduated. Jushiro went to the 13th Division to serve as the deputy captain, and Chunshui came to the 8th Division as promised. Hey, Captain Yunzhai, I'm here to report. It's Chunshui. I knew you would come to the 8th Division. Now the promise is still valid. From today on, you will be the deputy captain of the 8th Division. But you have to show your strength, otherwise the 8th Division's the chairman and the team members will not be convinced. After all, the new vice captain is an outstanding Shinigami. The new deputy captain? Captain Yunzhai, I just want to ask you something. When I was young, I saw two paintings in Master Shan's bedroom. One was the image of Shinigami covered in flames, and the other was a Shinigami surrounded by stars and thunder. I once asked Shanai the meaning of these two paintings, and he scolded me. Shanai explained that they appeared when Soul Society was in crisis a long time ago. Two monsters. However, the appearance of these two monsters will plunge Soul Society into a more dangerous situation. Later, it was mentioned that if these two monsters appear again, it also means that Soul Society will encounter imaginary encounters from now on. An unexpected disaster. I think the Shinigami covered in flames must be Shanai. I have never heard of the other Shinigami in the past hundreds of years. Since Captain Yunzhai mentioned being the deputy captain at this time, I have a hard time don't connect the two things. Captain Bonsai has been the captain of the Gotei 13 since its establishment, so he should know the inside story. Kyoraku Shunsui hit the point right away. As expected of Shunsui, he is very talented in gathering information. Yes, I do know that Shinigami. Let's have something to eat first and chat while eating. Ba Yunzhai made a dish that Kyoraku Shunsui had never seen before. A copper pot is filled with chili and oil soup, and a variety of raw and cold foods are placed next to it. What kind of food is this? It smells so good. Shunsui eagerly wanted to start. It's called hot pot. It was invented by my former vice captain. It was our favorite dish in the past. The time was really beautiful at that time. Ba Yunzhai fell into memories as he spoke. Looking at the expression on Ba Yunzhai's face, Shunsui felt that things must be very complicated. Okay, let's eat. Put these things in the hot pot. Once cooked, you can eat it. Here is the dipping dish. Dip the cooked food in it. Ba Yunzhai taught Shunsui how to eat hot pot. This scene reminded her of when Lin Yu taught her for the first time. He also said that only sesame oil in the dipping water is the most delicious, so as to ensure the original flavor of hot pot. Ho, it's so hot and delicious. But Captain Ba Yunzhai, you haven't told me about the Shinigami yet. Shunsui continued to ask about the Shinigami while eating hot pot. Okay, let me tell you about it. That Shinigami's name is Lin Yu. He is known as a genius in the Soul Society. His personality is similar to yours, and he is also a lazy person. He used to be my vice captain and was later promoted to 7th level. The captain of the division is the second captain of the 7th division of the Gotei 13. He is a figure of the same era as us. He is a figure of your generation, so Vice Captain Sasakabe should also know him. When I was a child, I never heard Vice Captain Sasakabe mention this name. Vice Captain Sasakabe became the vice captain of the 1st division after he joined the Gotei 13, and you said he was the captain of the 7th team. Now the captain of the 7th team is vacant. Did Captain Lin Yu die in the battle? Kyoraku Shunsui asked curiously. However, as soon as the words came out of his mouth, he realized that he seemed to have asked the wrong question, because Captain Ba Yunzhai's face instantly turned gloomy. The atmosphere suddenly became extremely awkward. Both of them were silent, leaving only the sound of the soup in the hot pot tumbling and gurgling. After a while, Captain Ba Yunzhai slowly said, Captain Lin Yu did not die in battle, but fell into a deep sleep. When she said this, there was a trace of sadness and helplessness in her eyes. After hearing this, Jinglu Shunsui couldn't help but have another question in his heart. Fell into a deep sleep? Bonsai continued, hundreds of years ago, there was a fierce battle between the Soul Society and the Quincy. The Quincy attacked the Siriidii. The Gotei 13 team now has so many vacancies for captains. It was due to this incident. At that time, Lin Yu killed a dozen captain-level Quincy, causing the leader of the Quincy, Yawatch, to take action against him. Originally, Lin Yu and Yawatch were evenly matched in strength, but later due to some other reasons the reason is that he was injured by Yawatch and fell into a deep sleep, and he has not woken up yet. Captain Yamamoto once said that as long as Lin Yu is given time, he may replace the captain and become the strongest Shinigami. When Jinraku Shunsui heard this, he couldn't help but feel a surge of admiration in his heart. Killing a dozen captain-level Quincy, what kind of combat power is this? He couldn't imagine what kind of disaster the Siriidii would have suffered if it weren't for Captain Lin Yu. You have killed a dozen captain-level Quincies. What kind of combat power is this? I hope Captain Lin Yu can wake up soon. Kyoraku Shunsui said softly, this captain who once made great achievements in the Soul Society is now lying in a deep sleep. I hope he can recover soon and return to everyone. In the following time, both of them fell into deep thought, each thinking about their own thoughts. The ingredients in the hot pot continued to tumble, exuding an alluring aroma. Last question. How come Captain Ba Yunzhai is so familiar with Captain Lin Yu, even though he was your vice captain before? Jinraku Shunshui's curiosity has not yet been satisfied. Captain Lin Yu is not only my comrade and subordinate, he is also my lover. He was injured by Yawatch and fell asleep to save me. The explosive news came from Ba Yunzhai's mouth calmly. Come out. At this moment, Shunsui wished he could give himself a tongue lashing. If he had known better, he would not have asked this question. Captain Ba Yunzhai must be in pain. His lover has been sleeping for hundreds of years to save him. He doesn't know when he will wake up. Maybe he will never wake up. Shunsui was like a child who had done something wrong. I'm sorry, Captain Ba Yunzhai. I shouldn't have asked. It's okay. Shunsui, Lin Yu will wake up, don't you think so? Yes, I believe Captain Lin Yu will wake up. Shunsui was like a drowning person who suddenly grabbed a life-saving straw. Chapter 26. Ba Yunzhai looked at the two uncles in front of him helplessly and secretly complained in his heart. What evil have I done? How could such an unfortunate thing happen? Saito looked leisurely and contented. Lying on the ground in the captain's room of Yunzhai, he seemed to regard this place as his own home. In the other direction, there is also such a pleasant figure, Kyoraku Shunsui. Hey, you two. This is my captain's room. Is it ridiculous to lie there so brazenly? Get up quickly. Yunzhai finally couldn't bear it anymore and roared at the two of them. Oh my, isn't the captain's room just a place for people to rest? Don't you think so, Captain Saito? Kyoraku said with a smile on his face, raising the wine glass in his hand. Cheers. Saito also raised his glass, touched it lightly with Kyoraku, then raised his head and drank it all. Yunzhai stared at the two of them in disbelief with his eyes widened. He really couldn't figure out when Kyoraku fell in love with drinking, let alone how he could bring Saito along with him. At this moment, Yunzhai felt that his world was about to collapse. Really? Don't drink in my captain's room. Can you go to an izakaya if you want a drink? Yunzhai couldn't bear it anymore and shouted loudly. Speaking of which, Saito, are you sure you want to retire? You are not considering becoming the captain of another division? After drinking a glass of spring water, he asked Saito his question. I won't think about it anymore. I'm tired these years. It's good to be an ordinary Shinigami. I don't have to worry about team affairs anymore. Saito looked indifferent. Central 46 really proposed to establish the 6th Division as a noble team. It is said that the Kachiki family of the 5 nobles will choose to be the captain. Didn't the captain refute it? The captain is no longer as decisive as he was 1,000 years ago. He has a protective heart. Besides, there is no point in refuting Central 40's order. Saito said what was in his heart. Captain Saito, don't say that about the 46th chamber. They are sages, selected from the nobles. Shunsui interrupted Saito, who wanted to continue. Besides, it's not that I don't want to be Shinigami anymore. I just don't want to be the captain anymore. So, from now on, I'm asking you to take care of me, Captain Yunzhai. Looking at Saito, who was serious and talking nonsense, Yunzhai didn't even think about it. Speak. Today is the day when Kachiki Jinryu of the Kachiki family takes over as captain of the 6th Division. There are several new captains present. The captain of the 2nd Division, Shohoin Senhichi, has retired a few years ago. Now the new captain is Shohoin Sagan, is the 21st generation head of the Saifanjiwan family. Shiba Yamamoto, captain of the 10th Division, is the head of the contemporary Shiba family. Captain of the 11th Division, Kinpachi Karyashiki. Karyashiki Kinpachi is already the 7th generation Kinpachi. He is a head taller than most members of the 11th Division, with sharp eyes like a beast and messy hair like weeds. The word 11 on the feathers on his back is like the mark of a sword. The Shinigami of the 11th Division generally believe that they are happy to stand on the same battlefield with him, no matter how dangerous it is. Karyashiki, who was so well supported by others, had never been domineering at all. On the contrary, he was humble, courteous, and easygoing. When his strength was praised, he would not be complacent, but would list the deeds of other strong men to humble himself. Karyashiki Kinpachi's greatest wish in his life is to fight Shinigami, who is stronger than himself, and entrusts him with the title of Kinpachi. The captain of the 12th Division is a busty purple-haired woman, Hikifune Kiryu. It is said that this person particularly likes to do research and is considered a scientist. The captain of Division 13 is of course the handsome Jushiro who has mastered Bankai. Currently, only the 7th and 9th divisions of the Gotei 13 have no captains for the time being, and the situation is developing in a good direction. Looking at these strange and young faces in front of him, Yunzhai felt an indescribable emotion in his heart. Time flies, old friends leave one by one, and now there are not many left. After the captain promotion ceremony, Yunzhai went to the 4th Division alone. There was a hospital bed there, and Lin Yu, who was not yet awake, was lying on it. Yunzhai sat quietly by the bed, staring at Lin Yu's pale face, his heart full of guilt and self-blame. She gently touched Lin Yu's hand, as if she could feel his former strength and tenacity. Lin Yu, wake up quickly, Yunzhai whispered, with tears shining in his eyes. After a moment of silence, Yunzhai seemed to have made up his mind. She stood up slowly, her eyes becoming firm. She turned around and left the ward, walking hurriedly towards the first team. In the first team's reception room, Yunzhai found Yamamoto Jinryu Sai Shigekuni. The two sat opposite each other, and the atmosphere seemed a bit solemn. I want to resign as captain of the 8th Division, Captain Yamamoto. Yunzhai took a deep breath and said solemnly, I recommend my deputy captain Kyoraku Shunsui to take over the position of captain of the 8th Division. Yunzhai, what are your plans? Yamamoto Jinryusai Shigakuni frowned slightly. He understood Ba Yunzai's mood, but at the same time he also understood that this was not the best way to solve the problem. I plan to retire and stay with Lin Yu in the 4th Division, waiting for him to wake up. Faced with Ba Yunzhai's firm attitude, Captain Yamamoto had no choice but to sigh helplessly and slowly nodded in agreement. Ba Yunzhai breathed a sigh of relief. She knew very well what this decision meant to the entire Gotei 13 team, but at this moment she could no longer bear more pressure. Only in this way could her heart feel a little better. Get some peace. When leaving the first team, Ba Yunzhai's steps seemed particularly heavy, as if every step carried endless fatigue and helplessness. She couldn't help but look back at the solemn building, with complex and indescribable emotions in her eyes. Huh. You asked me to take over the position of captain of the 8th Division. Captain Ba Yunzhai, are you kidding me? That is an annoying position. Besides, I am not ready to take over as captain yet. Shunsui, who was lying down, heard this. After this news, his face instantly became serious, and he even stood up from the soft couch. Not ready? Jushiro has already been appointed as the captain of the 13th Division. How can you say such depressing words? Ba Yunzhai frowned, with a hint of reproach in his tone. Is it irreversible? Shunsui has not given up his struggle yet. The captain has agreed to my proposal. Shunsui, you'd better get ready as soon as possible. Ba Yunzhai's words shattered Shunshui's last illusion. Ba Yunzhai, what will I do if you don't become the captain of the 8th Division? I still expect you to take me in. After hearing what Ba Yunzhai said, Saito suddenly felt a little at a loss. Don't worry, Saito. I will arrange a good place for you. Ba Yunzhai comforted. But I can't bear to leave you, Captain Ba Yunzhai. Shunsui said with an aggrieved look. Okay, Shunsui, don't be like a child. Ba Yunzhai smiled helplessly, and then continued to say to Shunsui, Shunsui, it's time for you to cheer up. Although this promotion is a bit unexpected, it is also recognition of your strength. Shunsui nodded, expressing understanding. He knew what Ba Yunzhai said made sense, but he still felt a little reluctant and worried. I'm going to the 4th Division to visit Mao Zihua. Ba Yunzhai patted Shunsui on the shoulder and encouraged him to cheer up. What do you want to see, Captain Zihua? Shunsui asked. I'm going to the 4th Division to find Unohana and ask her to do me a favor. Saito, do you want to come with me? Ba Yunzhai replied. Looking for Captain Zihua? Shunsui thought for a moment after hearing what Ba Yunzhai said, glanced at Saito again, and then said to Ba Yunzhai, is it related to Captain Lin Yu? Let's go, let's go. Anyway, I haven't seen Unohana for a while. Saito stood up. Okay, let's go. Ba Yunzhai took the lead and walked out of the room, followed closely by Saito. What about me? Shunsui looked at their leaving figures and asked at a loss. Just wait here for us to come back. Ba Yunzhai turned around and said. Oh, okay. Shunsui could only sit there and wait. Ba Yunzhai and Saito went to the 4th Squadron together, leaving Shunsui alone in the room, filled with loss and confusion. Ba Yunzhai, Saito, why did you remember that you came to the 4th Division to see me together? Zihua was very surprised by the two people's visit. Don't look at me. Ba Yunzhai dragged me here. Saito looked unhappy. There is something I want to ask you, Zihua. Does your 4th Division have a lake? I would like to use your place to build a cabin to take care of Lin Yu. Ba Yunzhai gate of opening explained directly. The purpose of visiting Unohana himself. Do you want to borrow a place in my 4th Division? Your 8th Division has a similar place, right? Why did you think of coming to me? Zihua frowned and looked at Ba Yunzhai with confusion. I can't figure out why Ba Yunzhai suddenly made such a request. Just now, Ba Yunzhai resigned from the position of captain of the 8th Division to the captain, and proposed Kyoraku Shunsui to take over the 8th Division. She wanted to leave the 8th Division. Saito explained that they were both best friends, and she knowing that Mao Zihua and Ba Yunzhai have a good relationship, they did not hide the matter. Have you decided to resign as captain of the 8th Division, Ba Yunzhai? Don't think about it anymore. After hearing the news, Zihua's face changed slightly, but she quickly regained her composure. The captain has agreed. After all the changes, there are not many old friends left. I am also tired. I don't want to be the captain anymore. It is better to accompany Lin Yu and wait for him to wake up. Ba Yunzhai said firmly. It seems that the decision has already been made. Okay, in that case, then you can come to my 4th team. The lake has a good environment and is a good place to retreat. Zihua nodded. She knew Ba Yunzhai's character and knew that once she made a decision, it will not change easily. Saito, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I can't take care of you in the 8th Division. Are you willing to stay with me in the 4th division, so that Unohana and the 3 of us can get together at any time? Ba Yunzhai said to Saivine, extended the invitation. Forget it. You stayed in the 4th division to take care of Lin Yu. I won't join in the fun. I'd better go back to the 8th division to eat and drink with Shunsui. Saito rejected Ba Yunzhai's invitation. Unohana smiled softly, her eyes fell on Saito, and she shook her head gently. It's okay, Saito. We all still have a lot of time and can get together from time to time. Her eyes were full of warmth and understanding. Then, she turned her head and looked at Ba Yunzhai. A firm expression appeared on Ba Yunzhai's face, indicating that he had decided to stay in the 4th division to take care of Lin Yu. Uzihua nodded slightly, seemingly not surprised by this decision. Well, in that case, just do as you wish. I will arrange for people to build a comfortable cabin by the lake as soon as possible so that you can take care of Lin Yu wholeheartedly. In this way, you can have a let's spend time together in a quiet and beautiful place, Mao Zihua said, her tone revealing her support for Ba Yunzhai. A few days later, the lakeside cabin was finally built. Ba Yunzhai walked into this brand new cabin with simple luggage and Lin Yu. The interior of the house is warm and tidy, and the sunlight shines on the floor through the windows, giving people a sense of tranquility. From this day on, Ba Yunzhai started her new life. She would take good care of Lin Yu every day, feed him, and talk to him, hoping to awaken his sleeping consciousness. She would also take him for a walk by the lake to enjoy the beauty of nature. At the same time, Saito also returned to the 8th division and continued to eat and drink with Shunsui. Although Ba Yunzhai and Saito no longer belong to the same team, their friendship is still as strong as a rock. Saito also often comes to the 4th division to visit Unohana, Ba Yunzhai, and Lin Yu, and share each other's experiences and feelings. During this period, Ba Yunzhai also gradually adapted to the new environment. She learned how to live independently, and in the process of taking care of Lin Yu, she discovered the tenacity and courage deep in her heart. She believed that as long as she persisted, one day Lin Yu would wake up again and eat hot pot with her and watch the stars together. Time passed day by day, and Lin Yu was still in a deep sleep. Lin Yu, who showed no signs of waking up, was still lying there without any signs of waking up. However, Ba Yunzhai did not give up because of this. She always believed that Lin Yu would wake up one day. Every day, she would take good care of Lin Yu and tell him everything they had experienced. On this day, the sun shone through the window on Lin Yu's pale face. Ba Yunzhai was sitting by the bed as usual, telling their story softly. At this moment, she suddenly felt Lin Yu's fingers move slightly, and this subtle movement made her excited. She quickly held Lin Yu's hand tightly, with tears in her eyes, fully expecting him to open his eyes. However, Lin Yu did not wake up immediately as she wished, but breathed weakly, as if trying to establish contact with the outside world. Ba Yunzhai did not dare to delay, so she hurriedly turned around and ran out of the room, rushing to the captain's room of the 4th team. When she arrived at the station of the 4th team, she shouted while running, "Mao Zihua, Lin Yu has reacted. Come with me quickly. Look." The voice was full of excitement and joy. After Mao Zihua heard Ba Yunzhai's shout, she quickly followed Ba Yunzhai without caring about anything else. The two came to the hut where Ba Yunzhai and Lin Yu lived together. It seems that Lin Yu is about to wake up. Ba Yunzhai, your efforts have not been in vain. All we have to do now is wait quietly. Mao Zihua judged Lin Yu's state. Instantly. Chapter 27. The Inner World of the Zanpakuto. Lin Yu burst into tears with excitement. It's not easy. After all these years, I finally learned Bankai. Yuhabak, wait for me. I will beat the shit out of you. He waved his fist excitedly, as if the dawn of victory has been seen. Ziwei looked at Lin Yu with disgust, with a hint of ridicule in her tone. Deshing. It took you so many years to learn Bankai. I think you are an idiot. Stop yelling. You should first think about how to assimilate Yuabak's strength. He crossed his arms, his eyes showing doubts and dissatisfaction with Lin Yu's strength. Lin Yu was not shocked by Ziwei's words, but responded confidently. Ah, what's that look in your eyes? It's not like you don't know how powerful Emperor Ziwei is. You're just a friend of Habak. Assimilating his strength is nothing. He clenched his fists tightly. The corners of Ziwei's mouth raised slightly, and he said with a half-smile, "Of course, Emperor Ziwei is one of the 6 emperors. Although you have only inherited the power of one of his projections, it is not comparable to that of any wild person. No speaking of other things, even the so-called Soul King's power can only be regarded as this." After speaking, he raised his middle finger and pointed to the ground. "He is a younger brother. It's not that I look down on these wild gods. The 4 saints of the North Pole and all the major star masters under Emperor Ziwei's throne are stronger than this so-called Spirit King. Ziwei became so domineering at this moment that Lin Yu was stunned. Stunned for a moment. Yes, a man who was deceived by the 5 nobles and then dismembered. At best, he is the king who maintains the balance of the 3 realms. At worst, he is a mascot. Lin Yu didn't understand this kind of behavior, and he was willing to be deceived after a few words. Being made into a human being, you really love the world. Anyway, if it were you, you would definitely not do such a stupid thing. Work hard. When one day you fully master the power of Emperor Ziwei, you will have no problem even replacing the Spirit King. Emperor Ziwei's priesthood can control ghosts and gods. You don't have to say it, that's for sure. I'll have to wake up quickly if I want to drink with you again. I don't know where the Shinigami plot is now. After saying this, Lin Yu mobilized the immortality in his body. Power? Yes, spiritual power has evolved into fairy power, although it is very small, because only spiritual power exists in the Soul Society, and Lin Yu can only slowly transform spiritual power into fairy power. Feeling Yawacha's power in his body power, without any effort, he transformed it into his own power. I slept for a long time. Huh? Where is this place? Lin Yu opened his eyes and saw that he was in a small room and tried to move his body. It's okay. My body is not rigid yet. Gulyulu. His stomach growled with hunger, and Lin Yu couldn't help but sigh. I haven't eaten by myself in hundreds of years. How comfortable it would be to have a hot pot meal now. He tried to get up from the bed, but his body was so limp that he couldn't get up at all. In desperation, he had to slowly move to the door. After opening the gate of opening, he was surprised to find that this cabin was built by the lake. Wow, this place is surrounded by mountains and rivers. The scenery is so beautiful. It's a good place to retire. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like there are any food sources around. Lin Yu looked around for a while. Suddenly, he slapped his forehead. Yes, isn't there a lake? If there is a lake, there will be fish. Do it yourself. Have enough food and clothing. Go to the lake to catch fish, and you can also take a bath by the way. Thinking of this, Lin Yu immediately became excited and jumped into the lake without hesitation. This feels great. I haven't been active for a long time. Let's get some food first and then go find where Yunzhai is. Lin Yu didn't know where he was, so he could only temporarily put aside the idea of looking for Yunzhai and solve the problem of food and clothing first. After all, people are like iron, rice, and steel. If you don't eat one meal, you will feel hungry. After catching the fish, Lin Yu found a place to go ashore and started grilling the fish. Squeak, the door of the hut was pushed open. Then there was a scream, and Yunzhai found that Lin Yu was missing in the hut, and there was no one on the bed. Where are the people? Where are the people? The people in Yunzhai were dumbfounded, and everything in their hands fell to the ground. Lin Yu disappeared. Such a big man, who was lying so well, disappeared inexplicably. The panicked Yunzhai began to look for Lin Yu everywhere. After running out of the cabin, Yunzhai looked around, and suddenly saw smoke rising from a place in the woods on the other side of the lake. Yunzhai immediately rushed over. This area was assigned to me by Mao Zhihua. Logically speaking, there shouldn't be other people around. Yunzhai was actually wondering if Lin Yu had woken up, but she didn't dare until she saw Lin Yu. Thinking about it, she was afraid that her full joy would become empty in an instant. The distance was getting closer and closer, and Yunzhai saw that familiar figure. Hearing the sound of someone approaching, Lin Yu looked in the direction of the person. An extremely funny scene occurred. Lin Yu was holding a fish in his hands and chewing it. Looking at Yunzhai, who was almost in front of him, he couldn't help but stop. He threw the fish with both hands and looked at her with dull eyes. Yunzhai, eat fish. Lin Yu, who had been holding back for a long time, popped out this sentence. Yunzhai looked at Lin Yu, who was all dirty, with a dumbfounded expression on his face. She walked slowly to Lin Yu, stretched out her hand and gave him a big mouthful, and then, regardless of the stains on his body, she wiped him out. He hugged her tightly, tears bursting from his eyes, and he cried loudly. I thought you were gone. I was so scared, afraid that I would never see you again. Lin Yu was a little confused by Yunzhai's sudden move, but he quickly realized it. He hugged Yunzhai back hard and comforted. Don't cry. I'm already awake and I just woke up. I felt very hungry when I woke up and there was no one around, so I went to the lake to catch fish. Hearing Lin Yu's silly explanation, Yunzhai couldn't help but burst into laughter. At the same time, he raised his hand and punched him in the chest. saying angrily, "You are still like this?" Lin Yu let go of his arms, bent down to pick up the uneaten grilled fish on the ground, handed it to Ba Yunzhai, and said with a smile, "Ba Yunzhai, try my grilled fish, it tastes so good." Ba Yunzhai lowered his head and glanced at the black, burnt-smelling grilled fish in Lin Yu's hand. He frowned slightly, with a look of doubt on his face. Is this fish? This thing is edible. Really? You won't be poisoned and die if you eat it, right? Lin Yu blushed when he heard what Ba Yunzhai said. This is a fish. Uranus Lousy is also a fish when he comes. He can't kill anyone by eating him. I said so. After so many years, I finally know why you and I always eat hot pot. It turns out that you don't know how to cook. It's really embarrassing to see you grilling fish like this. Ba Yunzhai hit Lin Yu that self-esteem doesn't exist. Okay, let's go home. I'll cook for you. Ba Yunzhai took Lin Yu's hand, and the two of them walked slowly towards the hut by the lake. You can read more daily new novels on fictionzone.net. Both sites share the same login details, so you don't need to sign up again. Chapter 28. Ba Yunzhai was very happy looking at Lin Yu eating big mouthfuls of rice. Are there flowers on my face? Why do you keep smiling when you look at me? Lin Yu looked at Ba Yunzhai and kept smiling at himself. Idiot. I'm happy because you finally woke up after so many years. Such a simple and unpretentious answer. So disgusting. Lin Yu, I want to ask you something? You ask. Lin Yu was still lowering his head to cook. Well, what happened to you? When I was looking for you just now, I noticed that the spiritual pressure on your body had disappeared. When I found you, you were clearly standing in front of me, but I couldn't feel any spiritual pressure. If you don't look at it with your eyes, you won't be able to detect your existence. What's going on? What's your current state? Ba Yunzhai asked his doubts. You're talking about this. It's very troublesome to explain. How should I put it? My spiritual pressure has undergone a qualitative change. Anyway, it is more advanced than spiritual pressure, so I can absorb the power of Yawatch and wake up. Lin Yu is eating, said the side. A form of energy that is one level higher than spiritual pressure. Ba Yunzhai murmured. What kind of power is it? Don't say it belongs to the Spirit King. That's not right. It is a high-level power anyway, but I have only just mastered this power. There are still many things to explore and learn. Lin Yu interrupted Ba Yunzhai and continued to work hard. So that's it. No wonder I can't feel your breath. It turns out that your spiritual pressure has evolved to this level, Ba Yunzhai said with sudden realization. Well, this kind of power is relatively advanced anyway, and I can't explain it in detail, Lin Yu said as he finished the last bite of rice in the bowl. It seems that this coma is also an opportunity for you, Ba Yunzhai said with emotion. Yes, although the process is painful, the result is still good, Lin Yu said with a smile. Then what are you going to do next? Ba Yunzhai asked. What else can I do? Of course I'll go fishing with you and watch the stars. The environment here is good, and it's perfect for us to retire, Lin Yu said firmly. No. Ba Yunzhai rejected Lin Yu's proposal. Why? Isn't this bad? Lin Yu thought his proposal was very constructive. You are still the captain of the 7th team. How can you abandon this responsibility? I have already resigned as the captain of the 8th team. What Ba Yunzhai said made Lin Yu almost jump up. Well, what? You resigned as captain of the 8th division. When exactly did it happen? What is the current situation of the Gotei 13? How long have I been unconscious? Then the cabin we are in isn't it a place for the 8th division? Many question marks appeared in Lin Yu's head. You must have been in a coma for hundreds of years. Kyoraku Shunsui is now the captain of the 8th team. The 2nd team has also changed. Unohana is now the captain of the 4th team. This place is the area of the 4th team. The 6th team, Team Saito, has also retired and is now staying at Shuansue's place in the 8th team, eating and drinking. Now the Kachiki Jinling of the Kachiki family is the captain of the 6th team. The 10th team is Shiba Samoto of the Shiba family. In the 11th team, the captain is Karyashiki Kinpachi. The captain of the 12th division is Hikifune Kiryu. And the captain of the 13th division is Jushiro Yukitake. After listening to Ba Yunzhai's explanation, Lin Yu roughly knew the current timeline. It's not too late. It's not even time for the main plot. Lin Yu thought silently in his heart. You said that I am still the captain of the 7th team. After so many years, the captain has not considered replacing him. It is not a good thing for the captain to be vacant for a long time. Lin Yu was dissatisfied with the fact that he was still the captain of the 7th team. He had no way to reconcile with him. Ba Yunzhai lived in seclusion here. Okay, Then I'll go to the first team to see the captain first to see if I can step down as captain of the 7th team. Bye Yunzhai, just wait for me at home. Lin Yu just wanted to leave, forget it. Let's go visit Mao Zhihua first, after all. I've been bothering her for so long. Who are you? What do you want from the 4th team? A Shinigami stopped Lin Yu, who wanted to enter the captain's room. Only then did Lin Yu realize that he was only wearing a Death Overlord uniform, and that his captain Yunzhai had long disappeared. So he quickly explained, my name is Lin Yu, I am a Shinigami from the 7th team. I would like to meet Captain Unohana. We are old friends. After hearing Lin Yu's self-introduction, Yamada Sinasuke looked at the man in front of him, wearing a Death Tyrant costume with a Zanpakuto hanging from his waist, and felt that he was not lying. So he smiled and said, it turns out that I am a friend of Captain Unohana. I am Yamada Sinasuke, the deputy captain of the 4th division. Unfortunately, Captain Unohana just went out, but she should be back soon. If you don't mind, you can go to the reception room to rest for a while, and then meet her again when she comes back. Lin Yu nodded in agreement, and then followed Yamada Sinasuke to the reception room. Here, he quietly waited for the return of Captain Unohana. After a while, Yamada Sinasuke came back and told Captain Unohana that a Shinigami from Division 7, who claimed to be her old friend, was waiting in the reception room. Captain Uzihua was full of doubts, not knowing who this old friend was. Old friend? Is it Chunichiro-chan? Okay, I understand. I'll go over and see him right away. After saying that, Captain Unohana walked towards the reception room full of questions. When she pushed the gate of opening, she had a look of surprise on her face. Lin Yu, you finally woke up. Captain Wozihua said excitedly. Lin Yu also responded with a smile. Mao Zihua, long time no see. After the two greeted each other, Captain Wozihua couldn't wait to ask, does Ba Yunzhai know that you are awake? I already know. Ba Yunzhai told me what happened over the years. I'm here to thank you for taking us both in. Lin Yu stood up and bowed to Mao Zihua to express his gratitude. What are you talking about? We have been friends for so many years. By the way, why don't you have any fluctuations in spiritual pressure? Uzihua also asked the same question as Ba Yunzhai. Lin Yu gave Mao Zihua another explanation. So that's it. I thought you no longer have the power of Shinigami. After listening to Lin Yu's explanation, Uzihua suddenly realized. Let's talk about it later. I have to go to the first team to see Captain Yamamoto. I'll take my leave now. Lin Yu got up and rushed to the first team. Lin Yu, you finally woke up? Chojiro also expressed his longing for Lin Yu after seeing him. After all, he was an old friend. Are you looking for the captain? Well, is the captain here? Come with me. The captain will be very happy to see you awake. Chojiro said and took Lin Yu to the captain's residence. Captain, I woke up. My spiritual pressure has changed a little. It's a good thing anyway, so I can't notice it. Lin Yu told his changes in advance, lest the captain would be like Ba Yunzhai and Maoji. Ask again like a flower. Just wake up. Everything else is trivial. The captain's former vigor seemed to have been worn away by the years, and he became peaceful and kind. Lin Yu looked at the somewhat old captain in front of him and couldn't help but feel a surge of emotion in his heart. Time flies so fast. Captain, why don't you learn Kaido to maintain your physical condition? Like this, once you do it, you can always look like you were young. However, the captain just smiled slightly and showed an indifferent expression. I have lived long enough, and I don't want to pursue a young appearance anymore. To me, these are no longer important. Hearing this, Lin Yu also laughed. Captain, you can't say that. Life is still very long. Where is this? The captain patted Lin Yu's shoulder lightly and said with a smile, Kid, you still know how to talk. However, you came to me today not just to catch up with me, right? If you have anything to say, you don't have to. Hide and tuck. Lin Yu nodded quickly and said solemnly, Captain, I want to resign as captain of the 7th team, and then live in seclusion with Ba Yunzhai. No, I don't approve. The captain refused without hesitation. Lin Yu's eyes widened and he asked in confusion, Why? The captain's eyes were firm and serious. When I am completely old, I hope you will take over my position and become the new captain. Therefore, I will not let you resign as captain. The tone was very firm, leaving Lin Yu completely unable to refute. Okay, I knew it would be like this. Lin Yu sighed like an eggplant beaten by frost. With what you just said, there is still a long time, kid. You are still young. Don't always think about retiring. You have to learn to shoulder the burden. The captain used Lin Yu's words to generalize the army. I understand, Captain. Then I will return to the 7th team. After so many years, I don't know how much the 7th team has changed. After many years, Lin Yu stepped into the door of the 7th team again. A figure saw Lin Yu arriving and hurriedly stepped forward and asked, "Are you Captain Lin Yu?" "What? You actually recognize me? Who are you?" Lin Yu was very surprised that after so many years, someone in the 7th team still recognized him. "I am Kotsubaki Basemon, and the deputy captain Kotsubaki Ichiro is my father. When I was a child, I always heard my father mention your deeds. I am glad that you are awake, and I hope you will continue to lead the 7th Division to move forward." Bajia Weimin looked excited. The person coming was actually Captain Lin Yu. It turns out to be Tsubaki Basemon-chan. "Your father, Tsubaki Ichiro, is here? My father has retired, and now I take over his position as deputy captain of the 7th Division. I see. Then it's up to you to lead the way," Lin Yu said to Basemon. Basemon nodded and said, "Yes, Captain Lin Yu, please come with me." After saying that, he turned and walked towards the captain's room, followed closely by Lin Yu. Pushing open the door to the captain's room, the layout inside is still the same. Everything is exactly the same as in Lin Yu's memory, as if time has never left traces here. "Captain Lin Yu, everything here is arranged as it was before you fell asleep. My father once said that you will wake up one day, so we have maintained the original appearance of this place. I hope you can feel it when you return here." "Feeling familiar and friendly," Basemon said. After hearing this, Lin Yu couldn't help but feel moved in his heart. He glanced at Basemon gratefully, then slowly walked to the desk and sat down. He gently touched the items on the table, feeling the warmth and familiarity. "Thank you, Basemon, for your trouble," Lin Yu said. Basemon shook his head quickly and replied respectfully, "This is what we should do, Captain Lin Yu. You are our hero in Soul Society and my idol. If it weren't for your heroic fight back then, Soul Society would not be here. It may have been so easy to win, so no matter what, we will always remember your achievements." After hearing what Basemon said, Lin Yu smiled slightly, but felt a little emotional in his heart. He didn't expect that he would become the idol of the younger generation of Shinigami, and this also made him realize that he had a heavier responsibility. "Baemon, you don't have to be so polite. Just call me Lin Yu from now on. After all, you are considered an old friend, so there is no need to be so outspoken." Lin Yu patted Basemon on the shoulder and said with a smile. After hearing this, Beneman showed a trace of hesitation on his face, but in the end he nodded and agreed. "Okay, Lin Yu, Captain." Lin Yu couldn't help laughing when he saw Baseman's nervous look. He knew that it would take some time to change what Beneman called him, but at least now the relationship between them was no longer so formal. Lin Yu thought to himself, "It seems that I have become the idol of the younger generation of Shinigami, but this is better. It is much better than being forgotten." In the 8th Division, Yunzhai found Saito and told him that Lin Yu had woken up. Saito packed his things in big and small bags. He was going to go to the 7th team to join Lin Yu. Before leaving, I went to see Chun Shui and said, "Chun Shui, after all these years of disturbing you, I am ready to leave the 8th Division." "Saito, where are you going? Aren't you going to stay in the 8th Division?" Chun Shui was very surprised. Saito had stayed here well for so many years, so why did he suddenly want to change places? "Lin Yu has woken up and has returned to the 7th Division now, so I am going to join him. Thank you for your care over the years. If you need my help in the future, just tell me and I will not refuse," Saito said at this moment, quite happy. Is Captain Lin Yu awake? No wonder. Chun Shui also knew that he couldn't keep Saito. "Then go ahead, Saito. You are welcome to come back and have a drink with me at any time in the future." "That's for sure." "Haha, Chun Shui, I'll leave first," Saito said, urging Yunzhai to help her carry her things. "Lin Yu, look who's here." Just when Lin Yu was still thinking about the past, Yunzhai rushed over with Saito. "Ah, Saito, you are not retiring in the 8th Division. You are a baggage. Where are you planning to go?" Lin Yu looked at Saito carrying a bunch of things. "From today on, I will stay in your 7th Division. Before, you were asleep and I had no place to go, so I had no choice but to live in Chun Shui. Now that you are awake, of course I will come to join you, and Yunzhai also here." "What? Don't you welcome me?" Saito said calmly. "That's not possible. I'm very happy that you can come to my place." Lin Yu said that he very welcomed Saito to move here. Lin Yu finally woke up, but there are still many things to deal with next. You can read more daily new novels on fictionzone.net. Both sites share the same login details, so you don't need to sign up again. Chapter 29. In the captain's room of the 7th team, Lin Yu, Saito, and Chun Shui were drinking wine, while Yunzhai was sitting at his desk, busy handling team affairs. While working hard, she muttered to herself, "Really, are you the captain or am I the captain? And you guys started drinking again. Ever since Lin Yu returned to being the captain of the 7th team, Shunsui often came to the 7th team to drink with Saito. Now, they even brought Lin Yu into this circle. These three people have similar odors and have nothing to do all day except drinking. What's even more outrageous is that Lin Yu actually left all the team duties to himself and euphemistically called it the male leads the outside and the female leads the inside. Damn it. Wait for me and see how I deal with you tonight. Ba Yunzhai gritted her teeth in anger, and she almost broke the pin in her hand. However, her protest did not attract anyone's attention, and the three people continued to drink by themselves. At this moment, Basemon pushed the gate of opening and walked into the captain's room. He looked at the scene in front of him and couldn't help but sigh. He has long been accustomed to such a scene. The captain's room of Team 7 has almost turned into a small izakaya. Captain, the captain sent someone to inform you to go to the first team, Basemon reported to Lin Yu. After hearing this, Lin Yu put down his wine glass and asked, "Oh, Master Shan is looking for me? Did you tell me what it was about?" Then he picked up the wine glass again and took a sip. The person who came to deliver the message didn't say the specific content of the mission. He just asked you to hurry over. Yeah. Saito, you and Shunsui can continue drinking. Master Shan has summoned me for something, so I'll leave first. On Lin Yu's way to the first team, he had been sorting out the plots that happened during this period and comparing the plots he remembered one by one. It's so hard. When I first watched Shinigami, I only watched the main plot. I didn't read the memoirs and extra chapters in detail. My memory is a bit blurry about what happened at this point in time. Forget it. I'll know it when I see Mr. Shan. Yes, as long as there is a reminder, you should be able to recall the general plot. After Lin Yu walked into the office, he saw the captain sitting behind the desk. He walked quickly to the captain and said straightforwardly, "Captain, I'm here. I have something to deal with." The captain looked at Lin Yu who was coming, put down the pen in his hand, motioned for him to sit down, and then replied, "Sit down first. There is something that really needs you to deal with." Lin Yu couldn't help but feel a little confused after hearing the captain's words. He knew that if it was just a general matter, the captain would usually not ask people to come to him personally. So he asked, "Is there something difficult?" The captain smiled, shook his head and said, "It's not a particularly difficult matter. It's just that your Zanpakuto can just handle it. This matter is related to the Kachiki family. Captain Kachiki has a very excellent son-in-law. He has performed very well in many missions to suppress the rebellion Shinigami. Now he has learned Bankai, and his name is Kachiki Shangha. He is currently in the 6th division. As the 3rd seat, I intend to let him join the 1st team as the captain of the special force. However, there is something wrong with his Zanpakuto, which will involuntarily affect the user's mind. In order to prevent him from being affected by the Zanpakuto, I went to Captain Kachiki, tried many methods but couldn't solve it, so he came to ask me to see if there is a solution." After hearing the captain's narration, Lin Yu probably thought about this plot. So that's what happened. Kachiki Shangha's Zanpakuto Muramasa does have the power to confuse people. I remember that this guy was later tricked into alienating people and was forced to go dark. He killed the guards and escaped from prison. In the end, Kachiki Inling and Shan Yu worked together to seal it, but it was a pity that he was killed by Byakuya Kachiki after the seal was released. Lin Yu thought to himself, feeling that Kachiki Shangha was a pity. If he could be guided well, he might become a powerful Shinigami. Fortunately, it's still early. Kachiki Shangha hasn't rebelled yet, and he can still save this delinquent young man. At this time, the captain interrupted Lin Yu, who was meditating. "I asked you to come because your Zanpakuto has the power of sealing. I want you to go to Kachiki's house to solve this problem and teach Kachiki Shangha. Reshape his mind." Lin Yu listened to the captain's words and nodded, indicating that he understood the importance of the task. He knows that his Zanpakuto has the ability to seal, which can help Kachiki Shangha get rid of Muramasa's control. Moreover, he also believed that he could complete this task. Lin Yu didn't hesitate and immediately stood up and said to the captain, "I understand, then I will go to Kachiki's house to visit the head of the Inling family." After that, he turned and left the captain's office, preparing to go to Kachiki's house. Along the way, Lin Yu thought about how to communicate with Kachiki Shangha. It was easy to seal his Zanpakuto, but he had to teach him what to do. Should he beat him? Soon after, Lin Yu came to Kachiki's house, requesting to meet the head of the Kachiki Silver Bell family. After some twists and turns, he finally met Kachiki Inling. "I wonder why Captain Lin Yu came to my Kachiki house?" Kachiki Inling was very nervous about Lin Yu's arrival. Even if she was a noble of Soul Society, she didn't want to provoke him. The younger generation of Shinigami may not know, but he knows very well that this captain is known as the strongest Shinigami after Captain Yamamoto. I don't know why he came to the Kachiki family. If someone from the Kachiki family messed with him, that would be troublesome. If he hacks him to death, he will be left dumb. Lin Yu looked at the Kachiki Inling in front of him, who was very afraid of him. He couldn't help but frown and felt doubts in his heart. He carefully recalled his words and deeds and found that he had not done anything extreme or terrible. Did he really leave the impression of a villain? Thinking of this, Lin Yu couldn't help but feel his heart sink. Master Kachiki, I was entrusted by Captain Yamamoto to handle Shangha's affairs. Lin Yu decided to go straight to the point and directly explain his purpose. After hearing these words, Kachiki Inling's eyes relaxed obviously, and there was a look of relief on his face. He quickly and respectfully said, "That's it, Captain Lin Yu, please come quickly." After saying that, Inling led Lin Yu to the reception room and told Shinigami beside him, "Go and ask Shangha to come over and see me immediately."
Yes.
After receiving the order, Shinigami did not dare to delay and left quickly. After Shinigami left, Inling smiled and said to Lin Yu, "Captain Lin Yu, please have tea." Lin Yu took the teacup, took a sip, then put down the cup, smiled and said to Kachiki Inling, "Kachiki family leader, there is something I wanted to ask you when I came in." Kachiki Inling nodded slightly, indicating that she was willing to listen. Lin Yu continued, "Before I said my purpose, the head of the Kachiki family seemed a little afraid of me. I think I am also a handsome guy, and I don't look fierce. Or have I done something to scare people?" After saying that, he did not forget to touch his face narcissistically. Kachiki Inling was stunned for a moment, then laughed and explained, "Captain Lin, you misunderstood, but I have heard about the war 1,000 years ago. Captain Lin, you killed those Quincy like chickens. Look, I feel unsure about you coming here alone." I only killed Quincy. I have never killed Shinigami." Lin Yu felt that he was off the mark. Fortunately, the young Shinigami nowadays do not know his deeds. The atmosphere is slightly awkward. Chapter 30. Father. As a crisp shout came, a young man with a slender figure and a handsome face appeared in front of Lin Yu. He wears an exquisite star-holding pliers on his head and a bright red windflower gauze on his neck, which makes him look particularly eye-catching. Damn it, this guy is not only handsome, but also very strong. He is just a standard golden turtle son-in-law, Lin Yu muttered to himself. The appearance of Kachiki Shangha made his eyes light up. The arrival of Kachiki Shangha finally broke the somewhat dull atmosphere. "Here comes Hibiki. Come on, let me introduce you. This is Lin Yu, the captain of the 7th Division. He has been the captain of the Gotei 13 for thousands of years." Kachiki Gingling introduced to Kachiki Hibiki. "Captain Lin Yu, this is my son-in-law Kachiki Shangha." Kachiki Shangha bowed respectfully to Lin Yu. The sound of Kachiki Shangha is clear and sweet, which makes people feel good after listening to it. Lin Yu looked at Kachiki Shangha carefully, admiring this young man more and more in his heart. While Lin Yu was looking at Kachiki Shangha, Shangha was also looking at him. "I have been a captain for thousands of years, but I don't know what my strength is." Kachiki Shangha thought about Lin Yu's strength. Kachiki Shangha spoke, "I don't know why Captain Lin Yu comes to my Kachiki house." When Kachiki Shangha said this, his eyes were not too respectful. He felt that he was just a captain, and it was nothing special. He just served as captain for a long time. Kachiki Inling also saw Shangha's eyes. "Don't be rude. Captain Lin Yu was invited by me to teach you." "Teach me? I have already learned Bankai. What else needs to be taught? What qualifications does he have to teach me?" Kachiki Shangha has his pride. Lin Yu was still thinking about how to deal with the problem of Kachiki Shangha. After hearing this, he played with the teacup in his hand, the arrogance of a genius. "I have a way to deal with geniuses. If you are not arrogant, just give him a beating." Lin Yu's eyes flashed with golden light. "Captain Kachiki, your Kachiki family should have a battlefield that can be Bankai. Please prepare it, and let me fight Shangha. He will know whether I am qualified to teach him." Kachiki Inling panicked. "Captain Lin Yu, something is wrong with Quanzi's words. Please don't take offense to Captain Lin Yu." "Master Kachiki, don't worry. I just want to test Shangha's strength. I won't break him." "Then, okay, please show mercy to Captain Lin Yu." Kachiki Jinling seemed to have seen the scene of Shangha being beaten. On the training ground of Kachiki's house, Kachiki Shangha and Lin Yu stood with swords in their hands. Their eyes met together, as if sparks could fly. They exuded a powerful aura that made people look at them with suspicion. Kachiki Shangha looked at Lin Yu in front of him, the corner of his mouth raised slightly, showing a disdainful smile. Captain Lin Yu, let's get started. The knife in his hand flashed with cold light, as if he couldn't wait to fight with the opponent. Lin Yu was also unwilling to be outdone. He held the knife in his hand tightly, his eyes firm and calm. Okay, Xianghe, but since it is a competition, there should be some luck. If I win, you have to worship me as your teacher. How? Hearing this, Kachiki Xianghe sneered. Oh? What if Captain Lin Yu loses? So what? Lin Yu smiled slightly, his eyes full of confidence. Losing? This word is not in my dictionary. Kachiki Xianghe raised his eyebrows, with a hint of provocation in his tone. Captain Lin Yu is too confident, isn't he? If you really lose, I hope you can agree to a condition. Lin Yu nodded without hesitation, with a hint of cunning flashing in his eyes. No problem as long as I lose, let alone one condition. 10 conditions will do. When Kachiki Xianghe saw this, he stopped talking nonsense and directly drew his sword to attack Lin Yu. I saw that his sword skills were sharp, and each sword contained powerful power. I haven't done anything after sleeping for hundreds of years, and I can finally relax my muscles and bones. Facing Kachiki Xianghe, who was slashing with a knife, Lin Yu didn't even bother to pull out the knife, and kept using instant dodge to dodge. After several consecutive slashes, Xianghe's attack didn't even touch Lin Yu's clothes. Captain Lin Yu, I admit that your Shuinpa is more powerful than mine, but you really underestimate me if you don't even draw your Zanpakuto. Lin Yu didn't say anything, and stepped forward in a flash, slapping the Zanpakuto and the scabbard at Kachiki Xianghe. Call out, Xianghe Shuinpa got out of the way, turned around and slashed at Lin Yu with a knife, and saw that the knife hit Lin Yu. Xianghe smiled proudly. Captain Lin Yu is not bad at all. Ha ha ha. Xianghe was only halfway through his laughter, and the blood splattering did not appear. Lin Yu, who was struck by him, was just an afterimage. Oops. Before he finished speaking, the Six Paths light sheet instantly restrained him, and Lin Yu's voice suddenly rang out. Hado number 31, Red Fire Cannon. The restrained Xianghe couldn't resist at all, and was shot away by the red fire cannon, with thick smoke billowing. Cough cough cough. Number 31 Hado received a blow from the front. Xianghe was still injured, and now looked embarrassed. Xianghe got up and yelled. As expected of the Millennium captain, he still has some strength, but you can't defeat me like this. Whisper, Muramasa. Xianghe released the Zanpakuto, and the sword released light purple spiritual pressure fluctuations. Lin Yu, on the other hand, had no reaction. How is that possible? Muramasa was able to make the opponent's Zanpakuto independent of the master's control and control the opponent's Zanpakuto to strike at him. But the Zanpakuto in Lin Yu's hand showed no abnormal reaction at all. Seeing that Muramasa was unable to affect Lin Yu's Zanpakuto, Xianghe launched a powerful attack from the front of Muramasa. Binjia Zhenglan. The ice and snow that appeared in front of Muramasa hit Lin Yu at high speed. This was Xianghe's most powerful attack move before Bankai. Lin Yu stood still. Empty, seeing Lin Yu abandoning his chant and using Duan Kong, Xianghe laughed. It's useless. This move is the move I'm most proud of. It's so powerful that even Duan Kong can't stop it. Boom, Binjia Zhenglan bombarded Duan Kong. Impossible. Impossible. The slap in the face was so fast that Binjia Zhenglan was blocked. Xianghe now felt like his defense had been broken. That man didn't even draw his Zanpakuto, and he was forced to this point. Lin Yu looked relaxed. Hey, keep going, Xianghe. You haven't defeated me yet. Xianghe was so angry that he was shaking all over, but he still didn't lose his mind. After taking a deep breath, he said, Captain Lin Yu, I'm going to Bankai. Be careful. Bankai, kill Muramasa without a hook. The materialized Muramasa rushed into Lin Yu's heart, preparing to attack his soul. Jia Jia Jia. Muramasa's disgusting laughter came from Lin Yu's heart. Before Muramasa could launch his attack, Ziwei waved his sleeves, and Muramasa, who looked frightened, was knocked out of Lin Yu's inner world. Where are you from? You're so ugly. You laugh so hard. Ziwei seemed to have done an inconspicuous thing. As Muramasa was knocked out, Xianghe also spurted out a mouthful of blood. The Zanpakuto was connected to the Shinigami itself. Muramasa was injured by Ziwei, which also fed back to Xianghe. Seeing Muramasa's ghostly expression, Xianghe's heart sank. What is in this man's heart? Even Muramasa was injured without any resistance. Xianghe put away his Zanpakuto. Captain Lin Yu, I surrender. Lin Yu hadn't exerted any force yet. Oh, now you have to admit defeat and stop fighting? Xianghe smiled bitterly. His pride as a genius was shattered. You haven't even liberated the Zanpakuto after I Bankai. So what's the point of continuing to fight? Okay, okay. If you don't want to fight, what's the point? Remember the bet. Lin Yu turned around and prepared to leave the training ground. Wait, Captain Lin Yu. Kachiki Xianghe stopped Lin Yu. Lin Yu was very surprised. Don't you regret it? Xianghe let out a loud breath. No. Captain Lin Yu, you never liberated the Zanpakuto from the beginning to the end. I hope you can liberate the Zanpakuto. I want to see how big the gap is between me and you. Are you sure you want to take the blow after I free the Zanpakuto? Someone will die. This was the first time Lin Yu heard such a request. What kind of masochism was this? Kachiki Xianghe was very decisive. Please ask Captain Lin Yu to free the Zanpakuto. Even if I die by your sword, I will never complain. The Kachiki family will never embarrass Captain Lin Yu. Oh, you kid. I'll just satisfy you for a while. Just hold on tight. Lin Yu stroked his Zanpakuto gently, the latitude and longitude of the sky, the latitude and longitude of the sun, the moon and the stars. They call for the wind and rain, the thunder and lightning command, and serve the ghosts and gods. Liberate me, Ziwei sword. The sky changes, stars appear during the day, and the entire Siriidii exudes Lin Yu's coercion. Kachiki Jinling outside the court felt this pressure. His face changed wildly. Please don't beat Kachiki Xianghe to death. The captains of the Gotei 13 also looked in this direction. That location should be the territory of the Kachiki family. Who is in Bankai? It's such a strong pressure. Only the captain who had seen Lin Yu's liberation was not surprised. What is Lin Yu doing? He's actually at Siriidii Bankai. Ba Yunzhai and Saito looked in the direction of Kachiki's house. Ha. Is this Captain Lin Yu's Bankai? Chun Shui smiled reluctantly, his heart full of bitterness. He was also the captain. Why was he so strong? The captain was very puzzled. Shinjiro, go to Kachiki's house and have a look. I asked Lin Yu to seal Kachiki Xianghe's Zanpakuto. How could there be such a big commotion? The entire Siriidii was filled with Lin Yu's pressure, and the first one to bear the brunt was Kachiki Xianghe. The moment Lin Yu was liberated, he was pressed to the ground by this pressure and could not move. Lin Yu was surrounded by stars and thunder, and his figure looked like a god and demon. Thor's judgment, a thunder dragon surrounding Lin Yu, turned into thunder and struck towards the Kachiki Xianghe on the ground. It's over. I can't stop it. I won't die like this. This was Kachiki Xianghe's last consciousness when he woke up. Boom, Kachiki Xianghe was hit by thunder and fainted directly. Lin Yu put away his Zanpakuto, and everything returned to normal. Sounding River, seeing that the sky had returned to normal, Kachiki Jinling felt a little relieved, but still rushed into the training ground uneasy, wanting to see Kachiki Xianghe's situation. As soon as he entered the venue, he saw Kachiki Xianghe lying on the ground covered in charred black, with smoke still coming out of his body and exuding the smell of barbecue. Kachiki Yinling's expression suddenly changed. She screamed in her heart and quickly stepped forward to check Kachiki Xianghe's injury. Seeing Kachiki Yinling's anxious look, Lin Yu hurriedly comforted him. Don't worry, Master Kachiki, he just looks seriously injured, but it's not that bad in fact. I only used one layer of spiritual pressure, and he can't be killed. His just looks scary. Just lie in bed for a few days and it will be fine. After hearing this, Kachiki Yinling felt relieved a little and began to quickly check Kachiki Xianghe's injuries. After careful inspection, Kachiki Jinling discovered that Kachiki Xianghe was indeed not in danger of life. He only suffered some skin injuries and burns and only needed a good rest for a period of time to recover. Kachiki Yinling frowned, turned to look at Lin Yu, and asked doubtfully, "What is going on?" Captain Lin Yu. Lin Yu shrugged his shoulders and replied with a relaxed expression, "Oh, it's nothing. It's just that after this kid lost, he was very dissatisfied with me for not freeing the Zanpakuto and asked me to free the Zanpakuto and give him a blow. I want to look how big the gap is between you and me." Seeing that he had such fighting spirit, I agreed to him, and then it became like this. However, I have been merciful, otherwise with my strength, this kid would have been wiped out. Chojiro arrived and asked Lin Yu, "Captain Lin Yu, the captain asked me to ask you why you are in Siriidii Bankai." Lin Yu explained to Shinjiro again. Kachiki family leader, Chojiro, I will go back to the 7th Division first. By the way, when Xianghe recovers, ask him to come to the 7th Division to find me. Lin Yu, who left, did not forget to ask Kachiki Yinling. After a while, Lin Yu returned to the 7th team. Captain Lin Yu, I heard that you were responsible for the changes that took place in Siriidii just now? Shunsui asked with a smile. Lin Yu asked Chun Shui with a smile on his face. Yes, it's my liberation. Why do you want to try Chun Shui too? No. Shunshui's head kept swinging like a rattle. He felt the pressure from such a distance just now. If Bankai was in front of him, he wouldn't dare to think about it. Lin Yu, didn't you join the first team? How could you free your Zanpakuto at Kachiki's house? Yunzhai couldn't hold back his curiosity. The head of the Kachiki family asked the captain to handle the matter of Kachiki Shungha. The captain asked me to go there. Shunsui reacted and asked quickly, Kachiki Shungha, this name is somewhat impressive, and it is said that he is also a genius. Your liberation just now didn't kill this kid, right? Lin Yu, who was drinking, spat out a mouthful of wine. How is it possible? I just used a layer of spiritual pressure, and it would only make him lie in bed for a few days. Spring water, please don't talk nonsense. Chapter 31. A few days later, Basemon pushed open the door to the captain's room and respectfully reported inside. Captain, Kachiki Hibiki from the 6th Division is here to visit. Lin Yu was drinking with Saito and Shunsui. When he heard this, he looked up and said with a smile, Oh, he can get out of bed in just a few days. This guy has a strong recovery ability. Let him come in quickly. At this time, Shunsui came closer and heard Kachiki Shungha coming to visit Lin Yu. He couldn't help but curiously asked, Why is this kid here? Is he because he didn't get beaten enough by you in the past few days? Get out of here. Go drink while you're there. After a while, Basemon led Hibiki to the captain's room. As soon as he entered the captain's room, Kachiki Shungha knelt on the ground without hesitation and said firmly, Master, Shungha is here to listen to your teachings. Yunzhai, Saito, and Shunsui were all stunned, with blank expressions on their faces. They did not expect that Kachiki Shungha would suddenly kneel down and call Lin Yu master. The three of them looked at Lin Yu in unison, their eyes full of doubts and curiosity, wanting to know what was going on. Seeing this, Lin Yu hurriedly smiled and explained, Hey, I made a fortune when Shungha and I were competing. If he loses, he will become my teacher. Ha ha. Yunzhai couldn't help laughing, patting Lin Yu on the shoulder and jokingly said, Lin Yu, I'm not telling you. You still want to be a master like this. You want to laugh me to death. Kachiki Shungha, who was kneeling on the ground, glanced at the captain's room of the 7th team, and then realized that the situation in the room was a little special. In addition to Lin Yu, there were 3 other people staying in the room. Among them were 2 women he didn't know, and the other one was Kyoraku Shunsui, the captain of the 8th Division. What surprised Kachiki Shungha even more was that the female Shinigami wearing glasses was handling team affairs. According to common sense, if Lin Yu does not handle these matters, then Deputy Captain Xiaochun should be responsible. However, now it is the female Shinigami who is handling team affairs, which makes Kachiki Shungha feel confused. He secretly wondered, is this female Shinigami's status in the 7th team higher than that of Vice Captain Xiaochun? Or does she have a special relationship with Lin Yu? Kachiki Shungha decided to observe the situation first before taking any further steps. Judgment. Seeing Kachiki Shungha looking around like a curious baby, Lin Yu introduced a few people to him. Shungha, that Shinigami with the eye patch has a lot to do with your Kachiki family. Shungha tilted his head and thought, is it related to my Kachiki family? Could it be that this female Shinigami is also a member of my Kachiki family? But why have I never seen her before? Lin Yu, please stop teasing him. Saito said carelessly, Kid, I am Saito Immortal, the 1st captain of Division 6. Do you think your Kachiki family has anything to do with me? Shungha suddenly realized, it turns out to be Captain Saito. I'm sorry. I only know that Captain Saito is the 1st-generation captain of our 6th Division, but I have never met you. Lin Yu shouted to quit. I said, Shungha, you didn't respect me so much when you saw me. Why did you change when you saw Saito? Suddenly Yunzhai stood up and clapped his hands on the desk. Lin Yu, shut up. Saito is a veteran of the 6th Division. Shungha should respect her. Lin Yu was frightened and trembled, feeling aggrieved like a 1,000-year-old baby. Oh, I understand, Yunzhai. Don't be angry. Puff. Lin Yu's funny look made Yunzhai couldn't help laughing. I'll take care of you later. Shungha was startled by the sudden angry Yunzhai, and murmured to himself, who is this woman? Why is even the cheap master so afraid of her? Shungha quickly looked at Lin Yu and signaled him to explain with his eyes, but Lin Yu was curled up like a frightened quail at the moment, not daring to move at all, and completely turning a blind eye to the hints in his eyes. Seeing this, Yunzhai said, Shungha, don't be afraid. I am Shikatori Yunzhai, the 1st captain of the 8th Division. Hearing this sentence, Shungha suddenly understood and quickly replied respectfully, It turns out to be Captain Shikatori. I'm rude. Although he still had some doubts in his heart, Shangha understood that the woman in front of him had an extraordinary status, perhaps even more powerful than Lin Yu. So, he decided to stay humble and polite to avoid annoying the other person. After all, even a cheap master like himself is afraid of someone, so he should not be underestimated. Yunzhai looked at the nervous Shangha and realized that his expression might be too serious. He quickly adjusted his image and said with a gentle smile, "You don't have to be so outspoken. Just call me mistress." Hearing this, Shangha was shocked. Lin Yu's careful and flattering look immediately appeared in his mind, and he couldn't help but think, is Captain Shikatori still cheap on Master's wife? This is too scary. It seems cheap. Master is still a strict wife. Lin Yu noticed that Shangha looked at him more and more strangely, and he couldn't help but feel nervous. He knew that Shangha must have misunderstood something, so he quickly sat up straight, cleared his throat, and said seriously, "Shangha, since you are here to become a disciple, you still need to have a ceremony." When Shangha heard this, he quickly came to his senses and stood respectfully in front of Lin Yu, preparing to perform the apprenticeship ceremony. Lin Yu smiled and nodded, indicating that Shangha could start. Shangha took a deep breath, solemnly made 3 big salutes to Lin Yu, and offered apprenticeship tea to express his respect and gratitude to his master. After drinking the tea from Kachiki Hibiki, he said, "Hibiki, from today on, you are my disciple. I am also very lazy. Rules and stuff don't matter. But you have to remember that as Shinigami, you must shoulder your responsibilities and maintain justice and order in Soul Society. This is my only request from you." Shangha rolled his eyes at Lin Yu when he heard this. "Rules don't matter. So why don't you ask me to be your master and bow down seriously?" However, he still solemnly replied, "Master, I understand." "Well, that's good. Shangha, do you know why I want to accept you as my disciple?" "Master, please clarify. I think you have good talent and you are considered a genius. You have learned Bankai at such a young age. But it is precisely because of this that you have become very proud and even arrogant. You must know that there is heaven and earth, and no one dares to say that he is the best. Strong. In addition, your Zanpakuto Muramesa's ability can easily go to extremes. In order to prevent you from going astray, I decided to accept you in order to gain another top combat power in the Soul Society." Shangha also understood this very well. "Actually, I don't need to tell you, Master. Sometimes Muramesa does affect my character inadvertently. I wonder if Master has any solution?" "It's simple. I will use my Zanpakuto to temporarily seal your Muramesa and then sharpen your mind. When your mind is strong enough, it will not be difficult to suppress Muramesa." Shangha had a look of distrust on his face. "Master, isn't your Zanpakuto of the thunder type? You said you used Kido to help me seal the Zanpakuto, and I still believed you. Use the Zanpakuto to seal it. Are you lying to me?" Lin Yu was dumbfounded. "You brat, who told you that my Zanpakuto is of the thunder type?" Shangha immediately retorted, "If it wasn't for the thunder element, how could he summon thunder to strike him?" Lin Yu suddenly responded, "You just saw the thunder, right? You forgot about my vision of liberation and the power of the stars. Sealing your Zanpakuto is a trivial matter to me. The power of the stars can be used. Come and seal it. Do you understand?" Lin Yu didn't say anything. Shangha really didn't know about this. "Oh, disciple understands. Thank you, Master, for your teaching." Chapter 32. Lin Yu pulled out his Zanpakuto and prepared to seal Muramesa of Kachiki Shangha. At this moment, Chun Shuei climbed up from the ground, shouting, Hey, no. If you want to release the Zanpakuto in the captain's room, someone will die." Hearing this, Lin Yu was stunned for a moment, then looked at Chun Shuei with a puzzled face and said, "Huh?" Then, he stared at Chun Shuei as if he were an idiot, with a hint of joking in his tone. "Who? The ability you mentioned to use the Zanpakuto requires freeing the Zanpakuto." Lin Yu's words stunned everyone in the captain's room. They all turned their heads and looked at Lin Yu with surprised eyes. Kachiki Shangha was even more stunned. Muramesa, who had been raised, stopped in mid-air. Yunzhai on the side also stopped writing the pen he was dealing with team affairs, while Shunsui and Saito put down their wine glasses and stopped drinking. After a moment of silence, Yunzhai finally couldn't help but break the silence. Her eyes widened and she said to Lin Yu in disbelief, "You are a pervert. Go and ask who can do it without freeing the Zanpakuto, using Zanpakuto abilities." This time, it was Lin Yu's turn to be confused. He has always done this, releasing his Zanpakuto only when he needs to use his ultimate move. Okay, then among all the Shinigami of the Gotei 13, There is no one else who can unleash the power of the Zanpakuto. Lin Yu still asked everyone without giving up. Shunsui came back to his senses. As far as I know, there is no Shinigami who can do this. Kachiki Hibiki was even more surprised. What was the extent of his cheap master's strength? If he didn't unleash his ability, even Captain Yamamoto might not be able to do it. It seems that I have made a profit by being able to worship him as my teacher. So delicious. Yunzhai thought for a long time and said to him seriously, Lin Yu, you'd better not reveal this matter. And everyone here, I hope you can also keep this secret. Looking at Yunzhai's extremely serious expression, others also realized the seriousness of the matter after thinking for a while. If this matter was spread, it would definitely be extremely detrimental to Lin Yu. Don't worry, Captain Yunzhai. We will definitely not leak this matter. We will let it rot in our stomachs. Several other people expressed their stance together. Lin Yu, sometimes you are such an idiot. You can even say such things, and in front of everyone. Yunzhai couldn't help but start scolding Lin Yu. Lin Yu was no longer stupid at this time, and said with a smile, Hey, you are my dearest mother-in-law. Even if you knew it, how could you harm me? Kiss. After that, he moved towards Yunzhai and kissed him. Lin Yu and Yunzhai had a long passionate kiss. Mua. Die. Those who show affection must die. Can you two stop being so exaggerated? There are so many people here. If you do this again, I will draw my sword and chop you. Saito roared on the side, like an angry lioness, exuding radiance all over his body. There were bursts of cold air. Lin Yu stretched out his hand and made a provocative gesture. Hey, come on. Let's see who can kill whom. Single dog. I can't bear it anymore. I'm going to chop you to death and attack me personally. Sato's face turned red with anger. His body was trembling slightly, and the knife in his hand began to buzz. Shunsui hurriedly hugged the furious Saito, fearing that she would really rush out and fight Lin Yu. He knew in his heart that with Sato's strength, it was completely impossible to hack Lin Yu to death. The end result would definitely be that she was pressed to the ground and rubbed by Lin Yu. Although Yunzhai would not let this happen. Yunzhai quickly comforted Saito. Don't be angry. Don't be angry. I will cook and apologize to you later. Shunsui, please stop sitting there and tell Jushiro to come over for dinner. There are a lot of people today. Lin Yu, take Xianghe for training. I see. Lin Yu hurriedly took Xianghe to the training ground to teach Xianghe for the first time. Xianghe remained suspicious of his unreliable master. Master, how are you going to teach me? Lin Yu touched his chin, thought for a moment and then said, Well, first, we have to start with the most basic things, such as how to hold the Zanpakuto correctly. With that said, Lin Yu picked up the Zanpakuto and demonstrated it to Xianghe. Who doesn't know how to hold a knife? No, 9 out of 10 times it's wrong. Hiss, Master Cheap is just holding his Zanpakuto. Why does it feel like there are flaws all over his body, but there are no flaws at all? Xianghe watched carefully, and then tried to imitate Lin Yu's movements, but something didn't feel right. Lin Yu saw Xianghe's confusion and said with a smile, You see, this is called the union of man and sword. Although we Shinigami fight by freeing the Zanpakuto, if one day we cannot free the Zanpakuto now, what should we do in battle? Killing fists and walking ghosts. This is a basic ability that Shinigami must master, and it should be familiar to you who come from a noble family. Xianghe has always used the abilities of Kido and Zanpakuto. Especially after learning Bankai, he even neglected to use Zanpakuto. As a strong person, you must have a solid foundation. If you don't have a solid foundation, you will be aloft in the sky. You will fall and fall on the way to the top. Let me change the knife-holding posture, and you can see. Lin Yu began to show Xianghe various knife-holding postures and explained the key points and purposes of each action. Xianghe tried hard to remember these techniques, but he still had some difficulty. Lin Yu encouraged, It doesn't matter. Take your time. You have done a good job. As long as you persist, you will definitely make progress. Although he thought Lin Yu was unreliable at first, Xianghe now understood that Lin Yu did know a lot and was willing to teach him patiently. Master, I still want to learn your Shuanpa footwork. The movement speed is too fast, so are you creating your own footwork? Xianghe looked at Lin Yu longingly. Lin Yu shook his head and said, You said Flash, I can't teach you now. Xianghe was a little disappointed, but still asked curiously, Is it because I'm not strong enough to master that kind of footwork? Lin Yu suddenly thought of Nilu and wondered how she was doing in Hueco Mundo. He touched his chin and said to Xianghe with a smile, That's not true. This footwork is indeed my own creation. But it's just I developed some techniques I learned from an old friend and combined them with Shinigami Shuinpa. I promised her not to spread them to others, and I didn't even teach you, my teacher." After hearing Lin Yu's answer, Xianghe felt a little discouraged. He sighed and said, "I understand. This is Master's secret." Lin Yu patted Xianghe's shoulder and comforted him. "Don't be discouraged. After all, I developed the flash by myself. I will discuss it with my old friend next time I see her, and she should agree. So, you just can't learn it now. I will teach it to your master and you later." After hearing Lin Yu's words, Xianghe's eyes rekindled hope. He nodded vigorously and said firmly, "Okay, I will definitely work hard to practice. Let's go, Xianghe. That's it for today. Let's go back and take a good rest to recuperate our energy. Starting tomorrow, we will formally train the posture and skills of holding the knife. Also, Captain Jushiro should be coming over soon. When he comes, we will all have a meal together. This meal is a welcome to you to join our big family." As expected, there was another chaos at dinner time. Everyone sat together and noisily shared stories and jokes with each other. Xianghe, on the other hand, sat quietly aside, smiling and listening to everyone's conversation. Although it was his first time participating in it, he felt a sense of peace of mind and warmth. It was late at night when Xianghe returned to Kachiki's house, and the moon in the sky cast a silver glow, illuminating the entire courtyard. The door to Kachiki's house was closed, with only the lantern at the door emitting a faint light. Xianghe gently pushed the gate of opening and walked into the courtyard. "Xianghe, you're back." The sound of Kachiki's silver bell rang in Xianghe's ears. Xianghe raised his head and saw Kachiki Jinling standing in the corridor, looking at him with a smile. "Father, it's so late and you haven't rested yet?" Xianghe asked. Kachiki Jinling shook his head. "I'm waiting for you to come back and want to hear the results of your training today." Xianghe walked up to Kachiki Jinling and said respectfully, "Father, Captain Lin Yu's teachings are very good. Although I thought the master was quite unreliable at first, after teaching me today, I found that he is a good person. As for master, I feel I have benefited a lot from studying with him." Kachiki Jinling nodded and expressed satisfaction. "Haha, that's good. Captain Lin Yu is a very strong Shinigami, and he is more than enough to be your master." Xianghe asked curiously, "I know the master is very strong, but how strong is it? Can father explain to me in detail?" Kachiki Jinling smiled, invited Xianghe to sit on the corridor together, then poured 2 cups of tea and handed one to Xianghe. They were drinking tea and chatting. Kachiki Jinling began to tell the story of Captain Lin Yu. Captain Lin Yu's reputation starts from the battle between Soul Society and the Quincy thousands of years ago. Xianghe listened with great interest, his eyes sparkling. He imagined that fierce battle, and his heart was filled with longing. "So master is so powerful," Xianghe exclaimed. Kachiki Jinling couldn't help but sigh. "Your master is indeed an amazing Shinigami. So, Xianghe, you must learn from Captain Lin Yu and become an excellent Shinigami like him in the future." Xianghe nodded firmly. "I will work hard, father." Chapter 33. Lin Yu sat leisurely on the chair next to him, holding a glass of wine in his hand and looking ahead with a smile. He said softly, "Hey, that's it. Hold on, don't move." Not far away, a young figure was standing there, his whole body tense and his clothes soaked with sweat, but he still tried hard to maintain a specific posture. Kachiki Xianghe couldn't help complaining. "Master, I have been in this position for almost half a day." Lin Yu smiled softly and comforted. "Keep on holding on. Although your strength is strong enough now, your foundation is still a little bit behind. What we have to do now is to make up for your foundation so that you can go further. Far away." After saying that, he raised his glass and took a sip. Xianghe took a deep breath and continued to grit his teeth, enduring the fatigue and discomfort in his body. He knew that he had to persevere, because only in this way could he truly improve his strength. Lin Yu looked at Xianghe's firm expression and nodded secretly in his heart. He was quite perseverant. He had persisted for so long and seemed to be working harder than me before. Lin Yu put down his wine glass, stood up, and walked to Xianghe's side. He carefully observed Xianghe's movements and helped him adjust his posture from time to time. Time passed by, and the sun gradually set towards the west. However, Xianghe gritted his teeth and tried to maintain a stable posture. Finally, when the afterglow of the setting sun shone on them, Lin Yu nodded with satisfaction. "That ends today." Xianghe breathed a sigh of relief. He glanced at Lin Yu gratefully, then sat down to rest. "Master, I feel like I'm almost exhausted. I'm just standing motionless. My hands and feet are numb." Sheltered by the stars, Lin Yu put his Zanpakuto against Kachiki Shangha's body. With the blessing of the power of the stars, Shangha's fatigue was swept away. Shangha, who felt refreshed all over his body, moaned involuntarily, "Master, I have to say, your ability is really abnormal. It is a good helper in long-term battles. Now my body is not tired, but my heart is tired. I'm here to buff you." Lin Yu patted him on the shoulder and encouraged, "It's definitely tiring. Whether you're physically tired or mentally tired, you have to choose one. Continue tomorrow," Lin Yu said lightly. Shangha's face was full of bitterness. "Master, at least let me rest for a day." "No." Lin Yu refused flatly. "Cultivation is like sailing against the current. If you don't advance, you will retreat. If you dare to say you are tired today, you dare to ask for leave to rest tomorrow." "That's okay." Shangha gritted his teeth, knowing that what Lin Yu said made sense. "Okay, master, I understand." Lin Yu showed a pleased smile. "This is my good apprentice. Go back and rest early, and I will teach you something new tomorrow." At night, Shangha lay on the bed, tossing and turning, unable to fall asleep. Although the physical fatigue has been eliminated, his heart is still heavy. Early the next morning, the sun shone into the room through the window. After Shangha had breakfast early, he couldn't wait to rush to the 7th Division again. He was full of expectation and his steps were brisk, as if something important was waiting for him. As soon as he entered the gate of the 7th Division, Shangha saw Yunzhai busy in the captain's room. He looked around, eagerly looking for his master, but there was no sign of him. So he asked curiously, "Master, where's my master?" Yunzhai stopped what he was doing and replied with a smile, "That lazy pig of your master is still sleeping on the bed. This guy is always like this. It's really a headache." "But why are you here so early today?" Shangha said excitedly. "Master told me yesterday that he would teach me something new today. I was so looking forward to it that I rushed here early in the morning." His eyes were shining with desire and excitement. Yunzhai shook his head with a smile, turned around, made a cup of hot tea, handed it to Shangha and said, "Let's have a cup of tea first, and I'll drag that lazy guy up from the bed." After that, she walked quickly into the room, ready to wake up Lin Yu, who was still sleeping. Shangha took the teacup, blew lightly, and took a sip of hot tea. The aroma of tea overflowed, and the warm liquid slid down his throat, making him feel a sense of tranquility. However, the inner expectations have not diminished because of this, but have become stronger. Yunzhai grabbed Lin Yu's ears and said, "Lazy pig, Shangha is here. Why don't you get up quickly?" "It hurts. It hurts." Lin Yu grinned in pain. "Really? Why did you come here so early? It's very impolite to disturb someone's dream. It's not like you said you wanted to teach him something new. Otherwise, why would Shangha come so early? Why don't you get up yet?" Lin Yu got up reluctantly. "Oh, if I had known I wouldn't have accepted apprentices, I couldn't even sleep in." Not long after, the 7th team training ground. "Shangha, today I will teach you swordsmanship." Lin Yu looked at Kachiki Shangha and said, "Swordsmanship? Is it your own swordsmanship, master?" "But the swordsmanship passed down from my Kachiki family is also very powerful." Kachiki Shangha asked in confusion. "Sword skills? Why learn that thing?" Lin Yu rolled his eyes. "I have to say that you are as naive as I was when I was young. I once asked Captain Yamamoto the same question, and he answered me the same way. Shangha, do you know why I want you to learn how to hold a knife?" Lin Yu asked seriously. Kachiki Shangha shook his head and said he didn't know. "I won't say any more. I will demonstrate to you once. With your talent, you can understand it at a glance. Pay attention to concentration." Lin Yu put away his lazy look, stood up with a sword, drew it, and chopped strike. Sheath the knife. A set of movements is smooth and smooth. It was so fast that I almost didn't see the movement of Master's sword clearly. Moreover, when I drew the sword just now, I felt that I was facing a wild beast. No matter how I avoided it, I would be hit by the sword. After seeing Lin Yu's reaction, after the blow, Kachiki Shangha fell into deep thought. Lin Yu walked to the sidelines and ate the love breakfast prepared by Yunzhai for him. "You think about it slowly and tell me when you understand it." Before Lin Yu finished his breakfast, Shangha spoke, "Master, I understand." "Then you say it and I listen." "You asked me to practice the sword-holding posture in order to build up my strength. The use of spiritual pressure combined with strength can put the opponent into a situation where he cannot move. The heart can move at will, and the sword and man are one. No matter what the opponent is, one sword is enough. One sword is enough. One slash. So there is no need to learn the sword technique. Kachiki Xianghe expressed his understanding of the sword. It's true that I have not insulted your name as a genius. I will give you a message that Captain Yamamoto gave me. The sword technique will only affect the speed of your slashing. What an inconvenience that is. Today's learning goal: swing the knife 1,000 times. Lin Yu remembered that the commander-in-chief had done this to him before, and now that he was using it on Xianghe, it felt so good. Chapter 34. I have taught almost everything that needs to be taught. He is indeed a genius. He learns too fast. I am still unqualified as a master. Lin Yu tossed and turned on the bed, feeling very irritable. He kept thinking about how to teach Xianghe better, but he could never come up with any new method. His irritability made it difficult for Ba Yunzhai beside him to sleep. Ba Yunzhai couldn't sleep because of him, and finally couldn't help but said, "What are you doing? You don't sleep at night, twisting around like a caterpillar. If you don't sleep, I will sleep every day. I'm exhausted from handling team duties. If you move again, I'll tie you up." Lin Yu stopped, sighed and said, "Ba Yunzhai, I can't seem to find anything that can teach Xianghe." Ba Yunzhai yawned and replied lazily, "That's great. After he leaves the army, you can sleep in every day and don't have to complain every day. Go to sleep." Lin Yu was silent for a while and responded softly, "Oh." Then he hugged Ba Yunzhai tightly, his heart still full of anxiety and uneasiness. In this way, Lin Yu stayed up all night holding Ba Yunzhai, with various teaching scenes and problems constantly emerging in his mind. He had doubts about his ability and did not know how to become a qualified master. Lin Yu got up early this morning, but actually didn't sleep at all. Ba Yunzhai looked at Lin Yu, who got up earlier than himself. "Why is it so early today? Are you not going to sleep in?" Lin Yu gave Ba Yunzhai a kiss and said, "I have decided. I am going to Hueco Mundo. Please help me report to the captain." "Going to Hueco Mundo? What's the matter?" "I won't tell you now. You will know when I come back. Anyway, it is a good thing. Just go and go." Lin Yu immediately left the Siri-IDI, opened his black voice and stepped into Hueco Mundo again. "Master's wife, I'm here again." Xianghe came to receive training so early. Ba Yunzhai looked at the diligent Xianghe. "Your trip today was in vain. Your master went to Hueco Mundo. I don't know when he will come back." "Tsk. This ghost place of Hueco Mundo is still so desolate. How can we find Nilu?" Lin Yu was suddenly in trouble. Lin Yu frowned slightly and fell into deep thought. After a moment, he decided to use the power of the stars to sense the surrounding space. At this moment, the first task is to find a Yachuka's level Daxu. After all, low-level hollows are like fools and difficult to communicate with. Back then, Lin Yu taught Nilu how to use Kido. As long as he captured a Daxu and asked about the situation, he might be able to find clues from it. Facts have proved that this method is indeed effective. It didn't take long for Lin Yu to sense the aura of a Daxu around him, so he immediately galloped in that direction, praying secretly in his heart. "I hope this Daxu is at least the Achiuka's level." As the distance between him and the target gradually narrowed, Lin Yu finally saw the outline of this virtual head clearly. "You're lucky, it looks like a Yachuka's," Lin Yu whispered to himself. At this time, the Yachiukas also noticed that a figure was rushing towards him at an extremely fast speed, but it had no time to react. Bakudo S61, 6 Light Prison. Before Lin Yuren arrived, he had already restrained it with Kido. Achukas looked horrified and was secretly shocked. "Is this Shinigami? And it's a very powerful one." In the blink of an eye, Lin Yu had arrived in front of this virtual person. He looked at Achiukas, who was restrained by the six-stick light, with a smile and said, "Hey, this virtual person, I want to get some information. If you can provide useful information, and I will let you go. I won't kill you." Daxu looked nervously at the Shinigami in front of him, and saw that he was wearing a black death tyrant uniform with a white haori draped over it. He was obviously a captain-level figure. "Sir Shinigami, my name is Erasure. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. As long as I know, I will tell you everything." For a Shinigami who can control himself so easily, Erasure is very sensible and only hopes that this will happen. An adult who can keep his promise. After all, he has finally evolved from Jillian to Achiukas, and he really doesn't want to die in such an unexplained way. "I want to ask, have you ever heard of a Vasta Daxu who can use Shinigami Kido? Think about it carefully, otherwise you will be hacked to death by me." After speaking, Lin Yu shook his hand. "Zanpakudo. Sir Shinigami. Sir, you are not talking about Niriel-sama, are you?" Lanya was obviously frightened. Lin Yu frowned. "It seems that you know. Are there any other Daxu who can use Kido?" At the beginning, I made an agreement with Nilu not to let anyone know about it. No, I have only seen Neliel use it. All the Daxu people are very surprised that she can use Shinigami Kido. Lanya knew that Neliel's ability to use Kido must be related to this Shinigami. But in order to survive, it's best not to ask questions that shouldn't be asked. Do you know where Nelu is? Lanya chose to tell the truth. I don't know where Lady Neliel is. I just saw her from a distance in a place not long ago. Location. Lin Yu urged impatiently. Lanya quickly named a place and pointed out the direction. I hope you didn't lie to me, otherwise I will find you again and chop you down. After Lin Yu finished speaking, he quickly disappeared and sped away in the direction Lanya said. Looking at Lin Yu's leaving figure, Lanya finally breathed a sigh of relief, but still had lingering fears. It couldn't help complaining and crying. What kind of bad luck have I got? I can meet such a powerful Shinigami in Hueco Mundo. I want to go home. However, at this moment, Lanya was still tightly bound by the 6 sticks of light and could not move. It can only pray that Lin Yu will not come back to cause trouble for itself, and at the same time hope that Kido can dissipate as soon as possible and let it regain its freedom. After Lin Yu tortured Daxu all the way, he finally found Nilu. There was also a blind Daxu in the middle, but he was directly hacked to death by him. Lin Yu greeted the figure in front of him. Nilu, I haven't seen you for hundreds of years. How are you doing? Feeling the aura that was constantly approaching her, Nilu was vigilantly preparing for battle. But when she saw the person clearly, she was surprised to find that it was her old friend Lin Yu. She couldn't help but wonder, Lin Yu, why has your spiritual pressure changed? Lin Yu was not surprised that Nilu didn't recognize him and explained. There was an accident before, which caused my spiritual pressure to change. Nella breathed a sigh of relief and then asked, It's been hundreds of years. What's the reason for you coming to Hueco Mundo again? Lin Yu smiled and replied, I came here specifically to see you this time. Nilu was a little surprised and asked, Looking for me? Lin Yu nodded and said, When we were parted last time, I asked you for advice on the technique of ringing. Later, I combined it with Shuanpa and developed a new movement method, blinking. Nilu's eyes lit up and she asked curiously, Oh, what kind of movement technique is that? Lin Yu explained patiently, This is a faster-moving footwork than our Shinigami Shuanpa, your Hibiki, and the Quincy's flying scythes. Nilu expressed great interest after hearing this, and Lin Yu continued, I am going to teach it to my wife and disciples, hoping to get your consent. Of course, in exchange, I will also teach you the technique of blinking. Nilu nodded and agreed without hesitation. Okay. Strictly speaking, the flash is a footwork developed by you. You are free to teach it to whomever you want, but you can't hide it. Lin Yu smiled and promised, No. After all, Shuangfeng combines the skills of ringing, and it still needs your permission. Don't worry, I will teach you Shuangfeng without any reservation. In this way, Lin Yu began to explain the techniques and key points of instant flash to Nilu in detail. He imparted his many years of understanding and insights on teleportation to Nilu without reservation. Nilu listened attentively, asked some questions from time to time, and had in-depth discussions with Lin Yu. In the process, they also talked about each other's experiences over the past hundreds of years. Nilu told her story in Hueco Mundo with great interest, which made Lin Yu listen with interest. In contrast, Lin Yu could only smile helplessly. After all, he had spent almost all of these hundreds of years lying down, and there really wasn't much worth sharing. However, happy time always flies by, and in a blink of an eye, it's time for them to part ways again. Before parting, they left each other's contact information so that they could keep in touch in the future. See you next time, Lin Yu, but not for so long, Nilu said with a smile, a trace of expectation in her eyes. Goodbye, Nilu. Lin Yu responded with a smile. As the world-traveling door opened, Lin Yu turned around and returned to Soul Society. In the evening, Yunzhai saw that Lin Yu had returned. Has the matter been settled so quickly? The two of them expressed their tenderness again, which made Saito furious. It's been taken care of. I'm going to teach you in Xianghe the blink of an eye. Saito, do you want to learn? Lin Yu tilted his head and looked at Saito. Aren't you talking nonsense? I also want to learn your footwork. Saito replied fiercely. Yunzhai knew that Lin Yu went to Hueco Mundo this time for this matter. Since he didn't tell him, he must have his reasons. As a wife, he should learn to understand. You can read more daily new novels on fictionzone.net. Both sites share the same login details, so you don't need to sign up again. Chapter 35. Baemon, please go to Kachiki's house and ask Hibiki to come to the 7th Division. Lin Yu sat at the desk and said to the deputy captain Basemon who was standing aside. I'll go right away, Captain. Basemon promised, turned and left. At Kachiki's house, Xianghe received the news that Lin Yu was back and was very excited. He knew that he finally had the opportunity to ask Lin Yu again for the key points of integrating man and knife. So, he couldn't wait to follow Basemon back to the 7th team. When they arrived at the 7th team, Lin Yu was waiting for them in the office. Seeing Xianghe coming, Lin Yu smiled and nodded to express welcome. Master, didn't you go to Hueco Mundo and come back so soon? Xianghe asked curiously. After all, it had only been a day. Could it be that Lin Yu just went to Hueco Mundo for a walk and then came back? Lin Yu replied with a smile. Yes, I originally planned to go to Hueco Mundo to stay for a few more days, but things were handled smoothly, so I came back early. After hearing this, Xianghe muttered to himself, Hey, I must have wanted to be lazy for a day, so I went to Hueco Mundo. However, he still said respectfully, So that's it, Master. Then did you encounter any dangers when you went to Hueco Mundo this time? Lin Yu shook his head and said, No, everything went smoothly. But how are you doing with your sword drawing practice? You were not lazy when I was away yesterday, right? Xianghe patted his chest confidently and said, Of course I have practiced drawing the sword, Master. I also want to understand what you said earlier about the unity of man and sword, but I haven't had the experience yet. Lin Yu nodded with satisfaction and said, It's a good thing that you haven't relaxed, but you want to learn how to combine man and knife in one day. You are thinking nonsense, even though you are a genius. At this time, Lin Yu turned to Basemon and said, Benamin, I'll leave it to you for today's team duties. Bonsai wants to practice with me. Basemon quickly agreed. Okay, Captain. Please feel free to leave it to me. This is what I should do as the vice-captain. But Captain Hakuwansai has been worrying about it during this time. After saying that, he turned around and left the office. When Xianghe saw Basemon leaving, he immediately approached Lin Yu and asked curiously, Master, will my master also give me guidance today? Lin Yu glanced at Saito, who had no presence in the captain's room. Follow me quickly, let's go to the training ground together. Huh, Captain Saito wants to come too? Xianghe was even more surprised. Lin Yu smiled and said, Don't ask yet, you will know later. After saying that, he stood up and took Ba Yunzhai and others to the training ground of the 7th team. On the training ground, the sun was shining brightly and the breeze was blowing, making people feel particularly comfortable. Lin Yu walked to the center of the training ground, stopped, turned around and looked at the three of them. What I want to teach you today must not be told to anyone else, otherwise I will personally kill them. Lin Yu said seriously. Damn it. Master is definitely going to teach you something awesome. After hearing this, Xianghe was filled with excitement. He nodded vigorously and said, I will definitely not tell anyone else, Master. Lin Yu smiled with satisfaction, and then said, Today I am going to teach you the blink of an eye. When Xianghe heard this, his eyes suddenly widened with a look of astonishment on his face. He took a deep breath and murmured to himself, Master, are you going to teach us this? He turned to look at his wife and Saito. The captain noticed that there was no emotion on their faces, and they seemed to have known about this for a long time. He couldn't help but feel a little disappointed. It turned out that he was the only one who didn't know, and he was acting like a clown. Xianghe blinked, and a hint of cunning flashed in his eyes. He smiled and said to Lin Yu, Master, didn't you say that teleportation cannot be taught externally? Is it because you think I am too good, so you are going to make an exception and teach it to me? Lin Yu smiled, resisting the urge to beat him up and said, Xianghe, you are really too narcissistic. You are very good, but this is not the reason why I made an exception. In fact, there is another purpose for going to Hueco Mundo this time, which is to find my old friend and get her permission so that I can teach you the blink of an eye. Lin Yu looked at the three people in front of him and said in a deep voice, The blink is a technique I developed by combining Su's ring and Shuinpa. Su's ring can avoid detection nerves, so you think it is very fast. This is my developed initial version of Flash. Initial version? The three of them expressed confusion. My current blink is version 2.0 because I also incorporated the Quincy's flying scythe kicks. The flying scythe kicks are completely different from Shinigami Shuinpa. Shuinpa is a footwork that mobilizes the spiritual pressure in the body to support body movement. The flying scythe leg moves at high speed by mobilizing the spirits outside the body. Before that, I will teach you how to mobilize the spirit outside the body. Otherwise, you will not be able to learn Flash 2.0 no matter what. Saito and Ba Yunzhai looked at each other, their eyes showing solemnity. It seemed that Lin Yu had also mastered the ability of the Quincy. Now that he knows how to mobilize the Reiki, he might even be able to use the Quincy's blood armor. After listening to Lin Yu's story, Saito asked, "Have you also mastered the ability of blood armor?" Lin Yu glanced at Saito in surprise. "You think fast enough." "I have indeed mastered the blood armor." Among the three, only Xianghe looked confused. "What kind of blood suit?" Lin Yu continued to explain the essentials of instant flash in detail. "First of all, we must concentrate all our attention to feel the fluctuations of spiritual pressure around us, so that we can detect the enemy's attack intention in advance. Secondly, when the enemy launches an attack, we must use our own spiritual power and speed to react quickly and skillfully mobilize the external spirits to avoid attacks instantly. Finally, while avoiding attacks, we must seize the opportunity to launch a counterattack and attack the enemy with a fatal blow." Xianghe was fascinated by what he heard, and his heart was filled with anticipation and excitement. He couldn't wait to try this magical flash technique. So, he took a step forward and prepared to meet the challenge. "Master, I seem to understand. Can I try?" Lin Yu nodded to Xianghe, indicating that he could start. Then, he imitated the enemy's attack movements and swung his arms out with a fierce momentum. At this moment, Xianghe concentrated his attention and kept in mind the key points that Lin Yu just said. The moment Lin Yu took action, he flashed and moved as fast as lightning, successfully avoiding the attack. "It feels really good. It's much faster than Xuanpe," Xianghe said with a satisfied look on his face. "Very good." A hint of admiration flashed in Lin Yu's eyes, and he nodded with satisfaction. "However, you have only initially mastered the technique of blinking. If you want to achieve true blinking, you need more practice. Especially when it comes to mobilizing spirit seeds, you are just beginners today. Once you can mobilize the spirit seeds as you wish, your speed will be faster." In the following time, the three of them practiced the blinking technique over and over again under Lin Yu's patient guidance. They gradually mastered the tricks, their movements became more and more skillful, and their speed became faster and faster. Chapter 36. You have all learned the skills of blinking. All you need to do is practice more. Next, I will teach you the skills of using blood equipment. Hearing this, Saito showed a surprised expression on his face. He seemed to be a little disbelieving and said, "Do you also want to teach us the blood armor skills?" Lin Yu sighed helplessly and then responded, "I have taught you all about blinking. How can I not teach you about blood equipment? But there is one thing to note. These cannot be passed on to others." At this time, among the three of them, only Xianghe looked confused. He asked curiously, "Blood suit? What is that? Why are the master's wife and Captain Saito so surprised?" Lin Yu was really too lazy to explain, so he said to Saito, "Saito, you should explain it to him." Saito curled his lips and then said to Xianghe, "Kid, do you know about Quincy?" Xianghe nodded quickly, indicating that he understood, and added, "I know. I have understood. They are our enemies. Master also said just now that Flash 2.0 combines the Quincy's flying scythe legs." Saito went on to explain, "Almost all of the Quincy's skills are based on the use of spirit suns, but ordinary Quincy's do not have this power. It can be said that a Quincy who can master the ability of blood armor is equivalent to, for those who are captain level or higher in Shinigami, blood armor is a skill that only high-level Quincy can master. It can be divided into two types, blood armor and static blood armor. Thousands of years ago, in that fierce battle, the Quincy demonstrated this powerful ability. The blood-moving equipment can greatly enhance the attack power, while the static blood equipment can increase the defense power. Now, you should understand why Ba Yunzhai and I. Are you so surprised?" After Xianghe heard this, a surprised expression appeared on his face. "This is a forbidden technique of the Quincy, teacher. You actually know it?" He looked at Lin Yu in disbelief, full of curiosity about this cheap teacher, and admiration. Saito was still full of doubts, scratching his head, and asked, "Although you have just taught us the skills of using Reiko, we still don't know how to use these skills to achieve the blood armor skill. If we just mastered it, if you can learn how to use the spirit child to use blood armor, wouldn't it mean that everyone can easily master this skill? In this case, wouldn't blood armor become a waste?" After hearing Sato's question, Lin Yu rolled his eyes helplessly, thinking that this guy was really ignorant. He said angrily, "Just because you don't know it doesn't mean that I don't know it. Otherwise, how can I be qualified to teach you? Saito, I'm afraid you are an idiot." After saying that, he gave Saito a hard look and said, as if asking how she could ask such a stupid question. Lin Yu took a deep breath and said calmly, "The key to the use of blood equipment lies in the degree of control over the spirit sun." He looked at the three of them, with confidence flashing in his eyes, With your current level of control over the spirit child, you are still unable to achieve that level. But through continuous practice and practice, you can master it one day. Lin Yu waved to Ba Yunzhai and said in a joking tone, "Come here." Hearing this, Ba Yunzhai's heart tightened. Looking at Lin Yu's malicious smile, he thought that this boy must be up to something again. Saito on the side noticed the strange atmosphere between the two and immediately became alert. His right hand tightly grasped the hilt of the Zanpakuto at his waist, ready to deal with possible situations at any time. "What on earth do you two want to do?" Saito stared at Lin Yu and Ba Yunzhai with vigilant eyes and said through gritted teeth, "If you plan to show off your love and show off your love in front of me again, I will definitely kill you today." After saying that, Saito firmly grasped the handle of the knife, as if he was going to pull out the Zanpakuto in the next moment and teach the bad couple in front of him a lesson. Xianghe saw something was wrong and ran away immediately. Lin Yu was very angry. His original intention was to teach Ba Yunzhai how to use blood armor, but now it was misunderstood to mean something else. "Saito, what are you doing?" "I asked Ba Yunzhai to come over, but I have serious things to do." "Who would show off their affection in front of a single like you?" "Don't be so sensitive, please." Saito still didn't believe Lin Yu's words and felt that the two of them were quite bad. You two bastards, haven't you shown your affection in front of me too many times?" Lin Yu looked helplessly at Xianghe, who was hiding in the corner, and shouted loudly, "Why are you running so far away? Get back here quickly." This way I can take advantage of the situation." When Lin Yu saw Sato's appearance, he also found it funny, but he stopped teasing her and said seriously, "Forget it. In order to prove my character to you, Saito, come here first." How can you not trust me so much? I am a very good person." After hearing this, Saito still had some doubts in her heart, but she still decided to give Lin Yu a chance, so she walked carefully in front of Lin Yu, without forgetting to threaten. "Okay, let's just believe it again. If you dare to lie to me once, I will kill you if you don't." Lin Yu looked at Sato's nervous look, smiled helplessly, and then asked her to sit down. Saito sat down obediently and stared at Lin Yu closely. Lin Yu gently put his hand on Sato's back. Saito stiffened slightly and wanted to move, but Lin Yu immediately stopped him. "Don't move. I'm going to use my power to circulate in your body for a week. You have to carefully feel and remember how this power works." As Lin Yu's power continued to circulate in Sato's body, lines like tree branches appeared on her skin. At first, the lines glowed red, and then they lit up blue. After Lin Yu took back his power, the changes in Saito disappeared. "You remember the path I used to mobilize the Spirit Sun just now? Just follow this path," Lin Yu told Saito. Saito felt like she had seen a ghost. Lin Yu didn't play tricks on her this time. "Okay, you didn't lie to me this time. I'll try it myself this time." Saito tried again, according to the way the spiritual power in his body was running just now. Branch-like lines also appeared, but the lighted color was lighter, but it was successful at least. After helping Saito memorize the running path of the blood suit, Lin Yu guided Ba Yunzhai and Xianghe again. All three of them have initially mastered the use of blood equipment. Just when Lin Yu was telling Ba Yunzhai and Xianghe the key points, clang! A crisp sound came, like a metal collision. The sound of the knife hitting an object rang in the ears of the three of them. Lin Yu turned around and saw that it was Saito who pulled out his Zanpakuto and slashed his arm. Fortunately, the static blood device was running. "What the hell are you doing? You tiger be ****. Lin Yu's eyes widened, and he looked at Saito in disbelief. I'm trying out the defensive capabilities of the static blood suit. I've only killed Quincy who used the static blood suit before. This time I learned how to use it, so I just want to try it," Saito said innocently, as if this is just normal behavior. The corner of Lin Yu's mouth twitched and he said helplessly, "You just learned the static blood armor and you are not yet proficient. Are you afraid that the blood armor will be useless and your hand will be cut off? If your hand is gone, I will give it to you. Find a big eagle, and you can become the great eagle hero of the Soul Society." There was a hint of ridicule in his tone, but it was more of surprise at Sato's bold attempt. Saito blinked, not seeming to realize the seriousness of the problem. Instead, he smiled and said, "The Condor Hero, it sounds like a very cool name." There was a sinister atmosphere in her smile. Her behavior also made Lin Yu feel speechless for a while. Saito was always so unexpected. Chapter 37. Time flies, the years are like a shuttle, and in the blink of an eye, the cycle of 4 seasons has passed. "Xianghe, I have taught you everything I can teach you so far. There was an old saying in my hometown, the master leads you in and cultivation depends on the individual. It all depends on what level you can reach in the future. Yourself. Lin Yu stared at Xianghe in front of him, his heart full of emotion. After this period of teaching, Xianghe's strength has improved significantly. It is no exaggeration to say that with Xianghe's current strength, coupled with his mastery of instant flash, blood armor, and the next-level swordsmanship, in addition, his combat prowess has already reached the captain level. What is even more commendable is that Xianghe's state of mind has also undergone earth-shaking changes, and he is no longer as arrogant and rude as before. At this moment, he has become a well-deserved strong man in Soul Society. Teacher, thank you for your careful cultivation. Without your guidance, I may not be able to reach where I am today. Xianghe knelt down and thanked me. This cheat master is the right one. Lin Yu smiled and waved his hand, signaling Xianghe to get up. Although you are already very strong, you still have to find your own way to reach the top. Xianghe nodded solemnly, with a firm light shining in his eyes, as if Lin Yu's every word was engraved in his heart. He knows that these are valuable experiences and wisdom that are crucial to his future growth. As for your spiritual training, I can't give you any good advice. You can only rely on yourself, Lin Yu said helplessly. He knew that spiritual training is a long and arduous process, and Xianghe needs to go through it himself. An understanding. Master has taught me enough, and I will work hard for the rest. Xianghe looked at Lin Yu gratefully. He understood that Master had given him a lot of help, and he needed to walk the next road by himself. Xianghe, do you want me to unlock your Zanpakuto now? Lin Yu asked suddenly. He wanted to confirm whether Xianghe was ready to face Muramesa's power. Kuchiki Xianghe hesitated for a moment, seeming to be thinking about this issue. After a while, he slowly said, Master, I can't completely suppress Muramesa's influence on me. As for unblocking, I'll wait until I have confidence. He knew that Muramesa was very powerful, and if he didn't have enough, be aware that rashly lifting the lockdown may bring unexpected consequences. But it's not a solution that you can't use your Zanpakuto all the time. Lin Yu frowned, thought for a moment, and then said, Xianghe, give me your Zanpakuto. Xianghe handed the Muramesa in front of Lin Yu without hesitation. Lin Yu took Muramesa, then sat cross-legged on the ground, placing the knife across his legs. Then, he closed his eyes and his mind sank into Muramesa's world. Time passed by. Xianghe stood quietly and waited. After a while, Lin Yu opened his eyes, handed Muramesa to Xianghe, and said with a smile, It finally succeeded. You can use it now. Xianghe looked at Lin Yu in confusion and asked, Master, what did you just do? Why can I suddenly use Muramesa again? He tried to liberate Muramesa and found that it could be completed smoothly. Although it seems that the power is not as good as before, at least it can be used normally. Xianghe's heart moved, and he materialized Muramesa. However, what surprised him was that Muramesa in front of him turned blind and dull. Lin Yu explained, I temporarily sealed Muramesa's consciousness. In this way, you can regain control of this Zanpakuto. However, because Muramesa's consciousness is sealed, its power may be weakened. So, use it with caution in the future. Lin Yu patted Xianghe's shoulder and said sincerely, From tomorrow on, you don't have to come to the 7th team to practice every day. You need to settle down for a while, and you will go to the 1st team soon. Xianghe heard this after the news. There was a surprised expression on his face, and he asked doubtfully, 1st team? Master, do you have inside information? What position will I take in the 1st team? As far as I know, 1st team Sasuke, the vice-captain, has no plans to be promoted. Should I also take the 3rd position? Lin Yu shook his head and replied with a smile, That's not true. Captain Yamamoto had previously planned to set up a special unit under the 1st Division, and you will be transferred there to serve as the captain. This is an important task. I need you to go all out. Work hard, and I look forward to you officially becoming the captain of the Gotei 13. After hearing this, Xianghe's eyes shone with excitement. He knew that this was a rare opportunity, but at the same time he also felt tremendous pressure. He clenched his fists and said firmly, Don't worry, Master. I will definitely work hard and won't let you down. Lin Yu smiled and nodded, full of confidence in Xianghe. He knew that Xianghe had extraordinary strength and potential. As long as he was given enough time and opportunities, he would be able to become an outstanding captain. In the following days, Xianghe began to prepare for the 1st team. After Xianghe left, Lin Yu returned to his previous lazy look, not knowing what he was doing all day long. However, since Renemon took over the team affairs, Lin Yu and Bonsai often went to the 4th Division. Sometimes they even went to the lake where they once lay together to fish, drink, and enjoy themselves. Leisure time. Saito, on the other hand, chose to leave in order not to be spoiled by these two people anymore and want to live in the real world. He also said that he wanted to experience a new way of life. Ba Yunzhai looked at the shaking fishing rod, but Lin Yu was absent-minded and didn't care about the shaking of the fishing rod. Ba Yunzhai hurriedly pulled the fish up. The fish is hooked. What are you thinking about? You almost ran away. Come on. What are you going to eat later? Lin Yu heard the sound and came back to his senses. He saw that the fish on the fishing rod had been pulled ashore by Ba Yunzhai. He smiled awkwardly and said, "Sorry, I was distracted just now." Ba Yunzhai rolled his eyes at him. "What are you thinking about? You are so fascinated." Lin Yu hesitated for a moment, but decided to say what he was thinking. "I'm thinking about a question." Ba Yunzhai asked curiously, "What are you thinking about? Tell me quickly." Lin Yu took a deep breath and slowly said, "I think." As he spoke, he looked at Ba Yunzhai, with a trace of tangle and worry in his eyes. Ba Yunzhai was so embarrassed when Lin Yu looked at her. Her cheeks turned red. She pushed Lin Yu gently and said coquettishly, "Why are you looking at me like this? Just say what you have to say." Lin Yu still didn't speak, but kept glancing at Ba Yunzhai. Ba Yunzhai was stunned, with a blush on her face. She lowered her head and said shyly, "Should we have a baby?" Lin Yu then realized that Ba Yunzhai had misunderstood, and he quickly explained, That's not what I meant." At this moment, Ba Yunzhai suddenly reacted. Her eyes widened and she said angrily, "Okay, you dare to trick me. See how I deal with you." After saying that, she stretched out her hand and pinched Lin Yu's waist began to rotate 360 degrees. Lin Yu grinned in pain and quickly begged for mercy. "My dear wife, have mercy on me. I was wrong." Ba Yunzhai then let go of his hand and snorted proudly, "You dare to tease me again." Lin Yu shook his head helplessly, hugged Ba Yunzhai with a smile, and said softly, "Actually, I was thinking about the power in my body." Ba Yunzhai asked doubtfully, "Is there any problem?" Lin Yu was silent for a moment, and then said, "I'm wondering if I can put my fused power into your body. Over the years, I have only converted a small part of my spiritual power. Its quality is extremely high. I don't know if there will be any problems if you put it into your body." Ba Yunzhai frowned and said, "Then give it a try." "How will you know if there will be any problems if you don't try?" Lin Yu sighed. "This kind of thing can't be taken carelessly. However, if it can really succeed, it should be of great help to improve your strength." "Then try it." Lin Yu pondered for a moment, "but the risk is too great." "I don't want to risk your safety." Ba Yunzhai looked at Lin Yu tenderly. "It's okay. It's peaceful time now, and with a master like you here, what are you afraid of? Give it a try." Lin Yu hugged Ba Yunzhai tightly and said, "Thank you for encouraging me, wife. Then give it a try. How will you know if you don't try?" "Okay, let's try it." Lin Yu carefully injected the transformed immortal power into Ba Yunzhai's body. In order to avoid accidents, Lin Yu only used a trace of immortal power. Even if there were any special circumstances, it would not threaten the safety of Ba Yunzhai. As the immortal power entered Ba Yunzhai's body, she felt that her own spiritual pressure began to boil and was out of control. The immortal power was so overbearing that it immediately surged through her body, and her spiritual pressure was constantly being swallowed up by the immortal power. Feeling the changes in Ba Yunzhai's body, Lin Yu was anxious and tried to take back this magical power. Quickly mobilize the spiritual pressure in your body. If you continue like this, your spiritual pressure will be swallowed up by this power. Realizing that his spiritual pressure was rapidly decreasing or even dissipating, Ba Yunzhai gritted his teeth and continued to integrate the little spiritual pressure left in his body into his immortal power. "No, Ba Yunzhai, the immortal power is out of my control, and I can't take it back." Just when Ba Yunzhai's spiritual pressure was about to be exhausted, the immortal power was no longer so violent, but it still continued to absorb her spiritual pressure. It's over. Just after Ba Yunzhai's spiritual pressure was absorbed by the immortal power, Lin Yu thought she had lost her Shinigami power. Immortal power suddenly began to feed Ba Yunzhai back. Lin Yu nervously observed Ba Yunzhai's condition and saw that the spiritual pressure in her body began to recover. Ba Yunzhai opened her eyes with her eyes closed. She felt the spiritual pressure in her body and shouted in surprise, "My total spiritual pressure has decreased, but it has become stronger." Lin Yu breathed a sigh of relief, and the stone in his heart finally fell to the ground. He smiled and said, "It seems that this attempt was successful." Ba Yunzhai hugged Lin Yu excitedly and said affectionately, "Thank you, Lin Yu." Lin Yu gently stroked Ba Yunzhai's hair and said in an extremely gentle tone, "Thank you for nothing." However, This power comes from me after all, so you should be careful when using it. Ba Yunzhai nodded obediently, his eyes full of determination. I will make good use of this power to protect myself and our family. Seeing that the matter of entering the immortal power had been successful, Lin Yu suddenly showed a smirk. He leaned into Ba Yunzhai's ear and whispered softly, Ba Yunzhai, didn't you just say that we should have a child? Then we have to work hard. After saying that, Lin Yu picked up Ba Yunzhai and strode towards the wooden house. Ba Yunzhai was startled by his sudden move, but he quickly adapted and a shy blush appeared on his face. Lin Yu carried Ba Yunzhai into the wooden house and gently placed her on the bed. The two people's eyes met together, and their love for each other became stronger. They hugged each other tightly, enjoying the warmth and sweetness of this moment. On this beautiful night, they released their inner emotions to their heart's content, as if they were the only two people left in the world. The early morning sunlight shines on the bed through the window, and Lin Yu and Ba Yunzhai sleep in each other's arms. A breeze blew, gently fluttering the curtains. Ba Yunzhai woke up leisurely and looked at Lin Yu, who was sleeping beside him, with a happy smile on his face. She gently pushed Lin Yu's arm away and got out of bed to prepare breakfast. While she was busy, Lin Yu also woke up. He walked behind Ba Yunzhai, hugged her waist and said softly, Good morning, wife. Ba Yunzhai turned around and smiled. Good morning. Go wash up quickly. Breakfast will be ready soon. Eat. After breakfast, Lin Yu and Ba Yunzhai came to the courtyard together. Lin Yu stretched and said, The weather is really nice today. Let's go out for a walk. Ba Yunzhai nodded, and the two held hands and walked on the quiet path, enjoying this rare leisure. I really hope this can happen every day, but as the timeline progresses, the main plot is coming soon, and as expected, Kenpachi Karyashiki is about to be hacked to death by Moljo Soya. Find time to visit him. Karyashiki Kenpachi is a talented person in the original work. Not only is he top-notch in terms of his own strength, but he was also recruited by the Zero Squadron. But he said that he couldn't stand the lonely and boring guard job, and he believed that as a Kenpachi he should stay in the 11th Division. So he refused the recruitment of the Zero Tage Division. In order to have more combat power against the omniscient and omnipotent Yawatch, this man had to be saved no matter what. Although Lin Yu could compete with Yuha at the middle gate, he knew very well that the Knights of the Star Cross with the Holy Body were powerful, not to mention Yuha's personal guards, and they should not be taken lightly. Thousands of years later, almost all the captains of the Gotei 13 were hung up and beaten by this group of people, and there was also the crest that could absorb Bankai. The situation today is still serious. As for Kurosaki Ichigo, Lin Yu did not place his hopes on him. In this world, only relying on one's own strength is the most reliable. So, how to get close to Karyashiki? Lin Yu thought hard. After all, he was not familiar with him. He was recalling the plot about Karyashiki, and suddenly remembered that Karyashiki and Shunsui seemed to be close friends. He remembered that after Karyashiki passed away, Shunsui often went to pay homage to him. Well, that's the decision. First go to Shunsui and ask him to help me introduce Kayashiki. Lin Yu finally cleared his mind. Chapter 38. In the 8th Division, Lin Yu looked at the female Shinigami in front of him, who had a long ponytail and a pair of rimless glasses. She looked very royal from the looks of it. He couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Isn't this Yadumaru Lisa? Remember, when he first arrived in Soul Society, he mistakenly identified Ba Yunzhai as her. But now it seems that the two do have some similarities. However, looking at the obvious vice captain sign on Lisa's arm, Lin Yu knew that he could not show his familiarity with her. So, he pretended to be calm and said, Are you the vice captain of the 8th Division? I want to find the captain of the Beijing band. After saying that, he quietly waited for the other party's response. You are Captain Lin Yu. I am Kiryu's vice captain, Yadumaru Lisa. Ah, do you know me? Lin Yu pointed at himself. I often hear that Captain Kyoraku mentions you. Kyoraku has been staying in the 7th Division some time ago. Thank you for taking care of him. Lisa's cold voice is so nice. Maybe Ba Yunzhai will learn from it some other time. Lin Yu scratched his head and chuckled. By the way, you know my wife was also the captain of the 8th Division before, and so am I. I have been the deputy captain of the 8th Division. We are all a family, so you don't have to be so polite. Can you take me to find Shunsui? I'm really sorry. Just now Soul Society received news that Daxu has invaded Soul Society. Captain Kyoband led members of the 8th Division and the 4th Division's medical team members to Rukongai to support Karyashiki of the 11th Division. Captain, will Captain Lin Yu wait here for his return? Lisa said apologetically. Damn it, I almost got into trouble when fishing every day. Lin Yu wanted to give himself a slap in the face. Karyashiki Kinpachi died after being suddenly challenged by Malajo Suya at a cocktail party after Rukongai defeated Salapalo. I wonder if something has happened. Lisa, no need. I'll go find him myself. After saying that, Lin Yu rushed to the 11th Division as quickly as possible. Captain Lin Yu, you are going the wrong way. Captain Kyoko is going to Rukongai. Lisa was very surprised when she saw Lin Yu using Shuinpa and rushing towards the direction of the 11th Squadron. I hope I can make it in time. Kaishiki must not die. After all, he is a good combat power. Lin Yu used the flash to the extreme. On the way to Team 11, Lin Yu felt 2 waves of spiritual pressure from the Zanpakuto Shurikai, and then 1 wave of spiritual pressure dissipated quickly. Oops, Lin Yu didn't need to think about it. He knew that it must be Karyashiki and Mole Chingshuang who were also working together, and it was Karyashiki's spiritual pressure that was dissipating. Team 11, and the members of Team 4 who followed Kyoraku were giving first aid to Kawarashiki. The Shinigami of Team 11 released their Zanpakutos and faced Malajo Shuya one after another, preparing to avenge Karyashiki. Sailor Lechuan also pressed his Zanpakuto, preparing to deal with emergencies. Stop everyone! A loud shout was heard, followed by a strong pressure. Everyone present could not bear the pressure and fell to their knees. Lin Yu. Chunshui looked at Lin Yu who was coming, with doubts in his eyes. Why did he come? It's Captain Lin Yu of Division 7. The Shinigami of Division 11 all looked at the visitor. Lin Yu glanced around and saw members of the 4th Division surrounding Karyashiki, nervously giving him emergency treatment. However, these ordinary soldiers have limited Kaido abilities and cannot achieve good results. Get out of the way. Lin Yu pushed everyone away without hesitation and quickly took over the work of the members of the 4th Division. He used Kaido skills to give Karyashiki first aid with all his strength, and channeled the power of the stars into his body to speed up recovery. Lin Yu felt that the internal organs in Karyashiki's body had been messed up, and the situation was very difficult. He concentrated all his spiritual power and continuously input Kaido energy in an attempt to repair damaged tissues and organs. As time passed by, the surrounding Shinigami did not even dare to take a breath, for fear that any sound would interfere with Lin Yu's treatment of Karyashiki. The whole scene fell into an eerie silence. After an unknown amount of time, Lin Yu finally breathed a sigh of relief and succeeded in saving Karyashiki's life. At this moment, Karyashiki's originally pale and papery face gradually regained its color. He slowly opened his eyes, with gratitude in his eyes. It's Captain Lin Yu. Thank you for saving my life. Karyashiki's voice was weak, but full of sincere gratitude. You continue to treat Captain Karyashiki, Lin Yu said to the first aid personnel of the 4th Division. Lin Yu stood up slowly, looked at the tense situation, and said in a deep voice, Put away all your Zanpakuto. Free your Zanpakuto to face your colleagues. Do you want to start a rebellion? Hearing this, all the members of the 11th Squadron sheathed their swords and knelt on the ground to thank Lin Yu for saving Karyashiki's life. Chunshui, what happened? Lin Yu asked knowingly. In fact, Jingle also wanted to know why Lin Yu came to the 11th Division, but he still answered Lin Yu's question. Malajo Suya just challenged Karyashiki in order to win the title of Kenpachi, but the 46th Chamber issued an order strictly prohibiting Karyashiki from using Benkai in the Siriidi. So this situation was caused. After hearing Chun Shui's answer, Lin Yu looked at Mole Chungshuangya, who was also kneeling on one knee with his sword in hand, who was also injured, and immediately asked the remaining members of the 4th Division to treat him. That's it for today. Mole Jiro Shuang also defeated Karyashiki. He is the new captain of the 11th Division, the 8th generation Kenpachi. Lin Yu set the tone for what happened. Mole Chungshuang, who was kneeling on one knee, also breathed a sigh of relief. Before the man arrived just now, he was frightened by the coercion coming from him. He knew that even when he was in his prime, he might not be a match for this person. Captain Lin Yu of the 7th Division? Mole Chungshuang also secretly remembered this name in his heart. Lin Yu, why did you come to the 11th Division? Seeing that the situation was under control, Chun Shui asked his question. Just now I went to the 8th Division to have a drink with you. Lisa said that you went to reinforce the 11th Division to deal with the Great Hollow invasion. On the way to Rukongai, I sensed the release of the Zanpakuto spirit coming from the 11th Division. I rushed over to suppress the fluctuations. After all, our 7th team is the inner court guard. Lin Yu found a perfect excuse, and no one could find fault. So that's it. Jingle felt that Lin Yu's behavior was reasonable. Hey, you guys take Karyashiki to our 7th Division. I treated him just now. I will continue to treat him in the future, so I won't trouble my colleagues in the 4th Division. After saying that, 2 people from the 11th Division carried the Kayashiki and followed Lin Yu to the 7th Division. Shunsui, I will go back to the team first, and I will meet you for a drink another day. After Lin Yu's conditioning of Kyoraku in the past few days, he finally recovered. What are you going to do now? Mole Qingshuang has also succeeded as the captain of the 11th Division. Are you going to stay in our 7th Division? Lin Yu launched a recruitment campaign for Kyoraku. Thank you, Captain Lin Yu, for saving my life. I have thought about it during this period. I plan to go to Hueco Mundo to find my best friend Aseto. He conquered Hueco Mundo and his whereabouts are unknown. I will not stay in the 7th Division. This is my choice. I hope Captain Lin Yu won't be offended. I will definitely comply with your orders in the future. Kyoraku declined Lin Yu's invitation. Lin Yu and Kyoraku talked all night. No one knew what the two talked about. The next day, Kyoraku went to Hueco Mundo. Chapter 39. He was too lazy before and almost failed to save Kyoraku. Lin Yu began to seriously think about the plot of Shinigami. He realized that he had to be more vigilant and focused and not let something like this happen again. This time I went to the 8th Division to meet Yudumura Lisa, which means that important characters such as Hirako Shinji, Hiyori Saragaki, Arikata Hakujin, Rokuker Kinishi, Ikawa Ratake, Kuna Mishiro, Hobashi Rojuro, and other important characters are all here, already on stage. These characters are key players in the story, and their appearance will promote the development of the plot. The members of the masked army are all here, but Lin Yu doesn't have a high opinion of their strength. Except for Hirako Shinji, who is somewhat powerful, everyone else seems a little not strong enough in his eyes. Especially the 6-car boxing West is simply a typical unit of measurement. People will use "how many cars do you have" to describe the combat power of others. This kind of evaluation shows that Rukachikenxi's strength is relatively weak, and it has become a standard for measuring the strength of other characters. In addition to the masked military strength, Lin Yu speculated that Urahara Kisuk, a sinister guy, might have emerged in the secret mobile force. Now Yuruchi Shihoin is taking over as the captain of the 2nd team. Her grandfather Shihoin Tingjin even joked with me. Time flies so fast. Hikifune Kiryu of the 12th Division is also about to be promoted to the 0th Division, which is also an important development in the plot. As the story progresses, more plots and conflicts will unfold, and Lin Yu begins to think about the future layout. Hairspray Hand Aizen should also appear, but I don't know where he is. His younger brother Tozen should also appear. And that big dog with the helmet, Kamimura, left? Lin Yu couldn't help but fell into deep thought. He realized that although he was familiar with the plot, it did not mean that he could fully control everything. He needs to have a deeper understanding of the relationships between the characters and be prepared to deal with various situations in advance. At the same time, he also understands that the use of resourcefulness and strategy is crucial when facing complex and ever-changing situations. However, for Lin Yu, layout is not an easy task. He knows that he is not the kind of person who is both wise and brave. Compared with people like Aizen, he has a certain gap in intelligence. Aizen is a powerful and intelligent enemy, and his plans are often well thought out and highly complex. Therefore, Lin Yu felt a little helpless and confused, not knowing how to better cope with future challenges. Really, I'm not a person with both wisdom and courage. I still need someone like Hairspray Hand Aizen to do the layout. Lin Yu scratched his head vigorously, feeling helpless. He knew that he had to think of a way to better deal with the subsequent plot. Think about it again to see if there is anything I missed. After thinking for a long time, Lin Yu still had no clue. I don't want to think about it anymore. Let's go to the 8th Division to find Shunsui for a drink. I said before that I wanted to have a drink with him. Lin Yu didn't plan to dwell on it anymore and rushed to the 8th Division. When he arrived at the 8th team, Lin Yu opened the door and walked in. He saw that Shunsui was actually handling team affairs. Hey, Shunsui, you can also handle team affairs. Where is your vice captain Lisa? Lin Yu said with a smile. When Shunsui saw that it was Lin Yu who was coming, a smile appeared on his face. Haha, it turns out to be Lin Yu. Come and sit down. Lisa and the others have set up a female Shinigami association and are participating in activities, so I have to handle the team affairs myself. Oh, you think everyone is like you? You have Hakuwansai and Basemon to help you handle team affairs. Lin Yu sat down and took out the jug. Come on, I came here to drink with you today. He shook the jug in his hand as he spoke. Shunsui looked confused. Oh, drinking? Do you have something on your mind? Could it be that you had a quarrel with Captain Ba Yunzhai? Lin Yu shook his head. How is it possible? I have a good relationship with Ba Yunzhai. It's not something I'm worried about. I just encountered some things recently and I feel a little powerless. You know, sometimes living for too long is nothing. Good thing. I found that I have lost my goal in life, so I want to ask you for any good life advice. Shunsui took a sip of wine and said slowly, if you didn't tell me, I would have almost forgotten. You are a person of the same generation as Mr. Hishan, and you have lived a long time. I am not very clear about the goal of life, but I think you don't need to worry too much. Just let things take their own course. Sometimes, excessive anxiety will only affect your mood. Lin Yu nodded. Well, you're right. Let nature take its course. If this continues, you may develop depression. Haha. Lin Yu, where did Karyashiki go? He didn't return to the 11th division during this period. Did he stay in your 7th division? Shunsui looked at Lin Yu and asked. Lin Yu scratched his head. Tell him, he went to Hueco Mundo. Why did he go to Hueco Mundo? Is it difficult to accept losing to Mole Chengshuang? He is not such a person. Shunsui frowned and said with some doubts. Lin Yu shook his head. He said he went to Hueco Mundo to look for a Sido. Who is a Sido? Lin Yu had never paid attention to this person. He had an impression of the name, but he really couldn't remember who it was. When did it appear? Shunsui suddenly showed a nostalgic expression and said slowly, a Sido. He is a person who fights for Shinigami beliefs and a powerful Shinigami. He is usually taciturn. He doesn't have many friends. He only has me and Karyashiki. Between the two of them, he led some Shinigami to conquer Hueco Mundo before, but there was no news later. He didn't know whether he died in the battle or was lost somewhere in Hueco Mundo. This time, Karyashiki went to Hueco Mundo to confirm him. Is he really dead? Lin Yu nodded, feeling a little curious about this Asido. Someone who can be remembered by Shunsui and Karyashiki must have something special. Let's go to Hueco Mundo another time to have a look. Salapo Luadu has already appeared, and Aizen may have started to cause trouble. He just happened to go to meet Balegang and weigh his strength. After all, he is the king of Hueco Mundo. Of course, this was before Aizen unified Hueco Mundo. Asido should not be dead. Lin Yu vaguely remembered this name, which proved that he survived until after the plot. The two drank and chatted, and time passed by unconsciously. Night fell, and the stars lit up their way home. Lin Yu said goodbye to Shunsui and felt much more relaxed. Perhaps all he needs is a chance to relax and someone to talk to. This night, he found the answer and the way forward. After Lin Yu and Shunsui had a drink, they finally got some clues. Since there was no good way, let's start with Hueco Mundo and take Ba Yunzhai to hang out in Hueco Mundo another day. Lin Yu thought that this time he would go out not only to check out Balegang, but also to look for Karyashiki and Asido to see who this Asido was and how he could make friends with Shunsui and Karyashiki. Not ordinary people. Of course, he will not forget to find Nilu. She was a special being, and he hoped to get her and Ba Yunzhai to get to know each other. Maybe they would become good friends. When Lin Yu returned home, he couldn't wait to give Ba Yunzhai a warm hug and tell her that he was back. However, what greeted him was Ba Yunzhai's slightly angry words. You still know how to come back? I thought you died of drunkenness in the 8th division. As she said that, she reached out and grabbed Lin Yu's ear. Lin Yu was a little helpless, but mostly felt happy about Ba Yunzhai's concern. Although it hurt a little to have his ears pulled, he knew that this was one of Ba Yunzhai's ways of expressing love. So, he responded with a smile. How could it be? I can't bear to leave you. Then, he gently stroked Ba Yunzhai's hand, trying to get her to let go. Fighting and fussing. Another day passed like this? You can read more daily new novels on fictionzone.net. Both sites share the same login details, so you don't need to sign up again. Chapter 40. Ba Yunzhai, I have something to tell you. Lin Yu sat at the table, secretly observing Ba Yunzhai opposite him while eating, thinking about how to speak to her and introduce Nilu to her. No matter how emotionally idiotic he is, he also knows that if he suddenly tells Ba Yunzhai that he has met a female friend who has been with him for hundreds of years outside, and the relationship between the two is very close, even to the point where they can be honest with each other, then the consequences can be serious. It would be unimaginable to make Ba Yunzhai angry and trigger a family storm. Just imagining that scene makes people shudder. If you have anything to say, just say it. Don't hesitate. Didn't you always say that you will be lenient if you confess and be strict if you resist? Ba Yunzhai noticed Lin Yu's strangeness and couldn't help but frown. She stared at Lin Yu's hesitant expression, as if he was constipated, and secretly guessed that there must be nothing good going on. I met a friend in Hueco Mundo, you know, Lin Yu said cautiously. I know. Your instant flash combined with his skills, you said that. Keep talking. I'm listening. Ba Yunzhai replied expressionlessly. She is a Vastad Daxu. Lin Yu hesitated for a moment, and then said it. Huh. Continue. Ba Yunzhai raised his eyebrows, seemingly not surprised by the news. She's still a woman. Lin Yu's voice became smaller and smaller, as if he had done something wrong. Huh. Ba Yunzhai's voice suddenly rose an octave, with obvious anger. When did we meet? She asked. It was the first time I went to Hueco Mundo. Lin Yu lowered his head, not daring to look directly into Ba Yunzhai's eyes. Is she beautiful? Ba Yunzhai's tone became cold. Well, I think she's pretty and has a pretty good figure. After saying this, Lin Yu instantly regretted it and wanted to give himself a slap in the face. Lin Yu, you have become more capable. Let me see if I don't break your legs today. Ba Yunzhai slapped his hand on the dining table, making the dishes and chopsticks jump. Lin Yu immediately threw the bowl away and knelt on the ground. My wife, listen to me. We are just ordinary friends. He begged for mercy, with a look of horror on his face. Woman, she is indeed a master of face-changing. Ba Yunzhai immediately smiled again. Lin Yu? What's her name? Lin Yu observed Ba Yunzhai's expression again. He didn't look angry. He breathed a sigh of relief and said, Her name is Nilu. Oh, Nilu. Ba Yunzhai muttered the name, still with a smile on his face. Why did you think of talking about this today? Lin Yu looked at Ba Yunzhai's smile and felt a little guilty, but he still said bravely, Are you not angry anymore? I want to take you to Hueco Mundo. I heard that Bailgang in Hueco Mundo is very strong. I want to let's go and weigh it up. It'll be just in time for you and Nilu to get to know each other. And by the way, look for Karyashiki and his friend Asido. The smile on Ba Yunzhai's face did not change at all, and he still asked with a smile, Oh, so that's it. Then why did you take us to see them? Lin Yu scratched his head. Well, actually, I didn't think too much about it. I just thought that we are all friends and we can get together. And Nilu really wants to meet you. Ba Yunzhai nodded. Okay, in that case, let's go together. But don't cause any trouble then. Lin Yu nodded quickly. Don't worry. I promise I won't cause any trouble. After saying that, he was secretly glad that Ba Yunzhai was not angry. Otherwise, the consequences would be disastrous. It's a pity that Lin Yu doesn't know what the calm before the storm is. Otherwise, he wouldn't talk about it if he were killed. After the meal, the two of them set off for Hueco Mundo with their own thoughts. Lin Yu, Hueco Mundo is so big and deserted. How are we going to find Nilu? You don't have to worry about this. I have contact information with her. Lin Yu was still proud of his cleverness and couldn't even cry later. Ba Yunzhai still smiled. My husband is smart and has left his contact information. So let's go find her. Lin Yu turned on the communicator and after getting in touch with Nilu, he took Ba Yunzhai and rushed in the direction of Nilu. Soon, they saw Nilu's figure. Nilu was wearing a white combat uniform, and the tight-fitting clothes outlined her perfect figure. Nilu! Lin Yu shouted excitedly. Nilu turned around, and when she saw Lin Yu, a surprised smile appeared on her face. Then her eyes fell on Ba Yunzhai next to him, her eyes full of curiosity. Lin Yu, who is this? Nilu asked softly, seeming to be very curious about this strange woman. However, before Lin Yu could answer, Ba Yunzhai suddenly made an uncharacteristic move. She hugged Lin Yu's arm and eagerly said, Nilu, right? I am Lin Yu's wife. My name is Ba Yunzhai. I'm glad to meet you. After saying that, a happy smile filled her face, as if she was announcing her relationship with Lin Yu to the world. When Nilu heard this, her face was a little surprised, but she still smiled and greeted Ba Yunzhai. Hello, nice to meet you. I am Nilu. Ba Yunzhai nodded slightly and began to look at Nilu up and down. A hint of surprise flashed in his eyes, but he soon regained his composure, with the faint smile still hanging on the corner of his mouth. As expected, as Lin Yu said, she's a very beautiful girl. At this time, no matter how new Lin Yu is, he knows that something is wrong and must not start a fight. I saw you for the first time today. I have never heard Lin Yu mention you before. When did you get married? Nilu also joked for some reason. Ba Yunzhai hugged Lin Yu's hand and suddenly pinched his arm. We haven't held the wedding yet, but we have done everything we need to do. Isn't that right, Lin Yu? Lin Yu grinned in pain. Yes, yes, we have done everything we should do. You must be very strong to be Lin Yu's friend. Let's try to compete. Ba Yunzhai let go of Lin Yu's hand and pulled out his Zanpakuto. Come on, I also want to know how strong you are as his wife and whether you are qualified enough. Nilu also pulled out her Zanpakuto. It really started to fight. Whatever he wanted came. Lin Yu felt that his mouth must have been opened. Lin Yu felt panicked as he watched the two women in front of him draw their swords at each other. He quickly stepped forward to try to dissuade him, but Ba Yunzhai and Nilu glared at him at the same time, making him immediately step aside in fright. Lin Yu, don't worry. We are just sparring. We won't hurt each other. Ba Yunzhai said to Lin Yu gently. Yes, Lin Yu. I also want to see how capable she is. Nilu looked at Ba Yunzhai provocatively. Lin Yu sighed helplessly and thought. Now, it's okay. 2 women are having a drama. I'd better find a place to hide as soon as possible. At this moment, Bonsai and Nilu released their Zanpakutos at the same time and attacked each other. Their movements were quick and agile, and the Zanpakuto in their hands shone with a cold light, making people shudder.
Thanks for watching. You can find the next videos in the playlist linked in the info card, directly on my channel, or right here on the screen. And as always, if you have any feedback, feel free to share it in the comments too.